Okay, so after I released my 38-minute video, I was called a pedo and a homophobe. Yeah, that's a great fucking start into this video, isn't it? Okay, jokes aside, most big people ignored it, although usually calls are responded to and debunked or discredited. And since I made a video with the most views, yet got the least attention for whatever reason, I can only imagine that that specific reason is, well, that they didn't want any eyes on me. Which in turn makes me think that I may have hit a few too many home runs. When my video is linked or brought up, it's just thrown to the side and that's it. Like, it's just starting to look like I'm fucking feared by this community. However, I did get a few comments by bigger creators that I will just quickly talk about. One, there's Shut Up Jojo, who was actually very normal and nice and actually gave me some hope for this community. Seriously, at the end of my last video, I had completely given up hope on anyone being acceptable, yet this fella just casually flipped it all on its head. Then there's also Speeds, who actively did try to explain himself, but when I applied some scrutiny to his statement, he just completely dodged any and all points I made. Reminder, just really quick here, he and Saster caused a panic for no reason. So I do believe it's important to, still ask questions when something doesn't add up here. Then, the biggest one here is a response by Brodo. And of course you might ask, why even bother responding to her considering she was such a minor point of my last video? Well, you'll know why soon enough. But yeah, she responded, basically said that everything but her part was true, and still basically proved my point of the team trusting her and her being biased towards them. The only thing she really debunked was me accidentally calling them friends, when yeah, that may have been the wrong word, but it doesn't change the fact that there was a bias there. In response, I give her 3 different comments and never get a single reaction on any of them. This goes to show how vague and arrogant she can sometimes be, which will matter way later in this video. However, I will leave her out of the Revie situation as I did promise in my last response to her. Now, just to clarify some shit from my last video. 1. That curse rant was just a side point. It was not meant to be an actual part of the callout. Hell, I'm pretty sure I even said that everything in that section was just my opinion, and not really a factual statement. Now, some of you might have seen that Com video that I uploaded shortly after my 38-minute one. I didn't make that one because my assumption was proven wrong, but because it was proven to be pretty fucking hasty. But I'll get to that later, it's a bit of a mess. When I spoke about the Big Four in my last video, that wasn't really meant to indicate how bad they were. I do not think that Mar really compares to fucking JesterFrog. I don't think that like any of them are actually worse than her, for example. It's just that they were the most powerful ones in this community. They were the mods directors. They had a lot of influence here. Next, I would like to add a small apology to Crybin. Now, I didn't do shit to him, but people seriously harassed him over the JesterFrog Redemption arc comment, which was so unnecessary. Please do not harass anyone I mention in these videos. It's just a disgusting way to have internet discourse. You're definitely free to hate them, and I fully understand why you do. But please don't be dickheads about it, okay? Oh, and you might see this name GBTAnon in the responses to this one tweet that Crybit made. Keep that name in mind, it'll come back up again. Hey guys, I am back and not sick this time. That's right, I am no longer dying of COVID. Hell yeah, default dancing. However, despite my voice being back to normal, I will not be voicing the entirety of this video simply due to its length. I do not wish for my voice to get grating. So I have asked your average Joe to voice some parts of this video, which he was nice enough to actually do. Thanks, dude. Now, you might have noticed that I'm in a more, jovial mood than I usually am in this kind of video. That is because this specific video will reach the deepest depths of moral depravity, so we do need some balance, you know? So, before we get started, when I discuss Rightburst, I will be 100% neutral. Kid's been through enough, please stop fucking harassing him. Now, I cannot make any promises on Joe's behalf to also be so neutral, but yeah, that's besides the point, I guess. I don't really care about petty shit like revenge or harassing someone, I only care for the truth. So please do not mistreat a fucking 16-year-old over internet drama. Please and thank you. Something else that's probably worth mentioning is that certain people have changed their names, but I will always be sticking to the old ones as those are the more recognizable ones. So, whenever I say JesterFrog, I mean the person that's, as far as we know, currently called Bunny Tables. When I say Jackie, I mean Dusky Y. When I say Jasper, I mean the person with a billion fucking names. I'm not even gonna bother listing all of them, here's just a couple. Brodowo, or Brodo, is Mamie Mayo. And Madman Halloween is Wicked Woman Halloween. I will still try to stick to she/her pronouns for her, but I'm not perfect. I'm just using the old name for the sake of recognizability. Okay, I think that covers everything I need to say very early on in the video, so time to get into the content warning for the rest of this mess. So, warning. This video will talk about topics such as attempted suicide, suicide baiting, child abuse and pedophilia, child exploitation, possibly, depends on your definition, verbal abuse, depression, manipulation, public slander, betrayal and abandonment, disrespect towards the dead, and people being general dickheads. Right now, on screen, you should be seeing a playlist with every relevant video to this whole situation. I recommend watching it first, before this video. You can skip the Toastify streams and the Bored Oranges video if you want, they're mostly just reiterating what we already know and getting more eyes on the subject. Now, most of this evidence was collected up until the 19th of November 2022, but I did still manage to squeeze some subjects from later on in. However, I cannot guarantee that everything that happened in between that date and the release of this video is in here. It's just too big a fucking conspiracy web. As I am recording this, it is the 10th of December 2022, meaning that anything that happens after this is like basically off the table of being mentioned unless it's a really big deal. So you're most likely gonna know anyway. So yeah. Still, right now, this video has over 1,000 screenshots worth of evidence. That is a lot, and I expect this video to be fucking ages long, so I hope you enjoy this ride, because I sure as hell did not. I made this video with the goal in mind to end the entirety of the exit drama. And while that is, realistically speaking, impossible, we can at least try to do that by starting where everything started. Revie. Okay, let me just preface this chapter with saying that Rightburst admitted to me in a group chat that it was just slander. And this is not some fake Rightburst, just for some fake screenshot. No, this is the real one and I'm gonna prove it. Now, there are definitely people who have impersonated Rightburst, that is nothing new, but unlike that impersonator that Rightburst himself exposed, the one I talked to doesn't just have the same tag, but also doesn't use a capital I instead of a lowercase l, and has the same creation date as the one you'll find in all the different servers. And to further prove that this is not just two different screenshots of Rightbursts and this account is still separate, I have the fucker friended, and you see it on the screen with German text. And for those who don't know, yes, I am German. So yeah, I hope this just completely proves that this is in fact Rightburst saying it. And you'll know why he said it way later. We'll get back to that, don't worry. Next, I'd just really quickly like to talk about the mistreatment some of the Revie supporters have gotten, even though they really just try to follow the truth. We had people like Biddle3 just casually saying, hey, how about I kill you, how about that, to people just defending Revie. Or you have psychopaths like Juno saying that a Russia versus Ukraine mod, you know, a war that is still going on right fucking now, would be better and more tasteful than a quote-unquote groomer's character. Christ! Then there's also just people saying that we don't even deserve truth and should just blindly follow the word. Or, way more interestingly, people being told to rot in hell and straight up getting doxxed for the heinous crime of following evidence. But honestly, we never even needed all the new evidence in order to prove her innocent. Fuck, just 1 or 2 days after the initial threat by Falsecow, there was this person, okay, Pondersprocket is their name, that immediately pointed out how shit the evidence presented is. And unlike Falsecow, they actually allowed some fucking discourse. Hallelujah! Comments were not turned off, and that's surprisingly rare in this drama. Genuinely, thank you, Sprocket. Thank you for being like actually sane, even back in January. Pondersprocket is seriously an unsung hero in this drama. It's insane. Now, something else that may have fallen under the wayside in all this mess is Revie's personal response dog. I'm not gonna go over it all again, simply because most of it has already been used repeatedly as evidence, because, you know, she herself acknowledged every grooming related accusation in it and debunked those, then also showed actual proof of her going to therapy, which people for some reason still claim at times that she just never did. And it was completely disregarded, because it didn't fit into the narrative of her being a groomer, and admitting to it too. Okay, very quickly, for the sake of ending this discussion around her fully, allow me to give you a better explanation of the parallax situation than I had in my last video, because there was even more to this that I had completely missed. Previously, I only discussed Rightburst dog. My main points were that it was spiteful to Avery, manipulated Revie's image, and called her a pedo. But there was a dog before this one, the one by Avery. So let's get right into it. Some minor things of note from this doc are that this whole situation apparently only started because Rightburst wanted to quote-unquote confront Revie over her 4chan Q&A. This is where the first lie comes in, that Revie did not take any accountability before. Like, fucking hell. Falsecow even mentioned it in the thread. What the fuck are you on about? And then basically shows the same convo that Rightburst also showed. You know, that group chat between the three of them. Then it gets weirder because Avery just straight up goes on to slander Revie. Okay? First of all, when giving a justification for contacting her, it's that they helped out a groomer before? You know, I'm not surprised, but it's weird that you would just say it like that. And immediately, Avery just came in immensely hyper-aggressively. You know, saying shit like, you are a liability to others around you, you're dense, the facet of you constantly stirring up shit whenever your presence is known, or your nature to be this blatantly ignorant. Those are all direct quotes. Just not me exaggerating, just direct quotes. Then Revie gives a justifiably angry response. She shows how the people continuously slandering her are the actually dense ones. She says that she's only stirring up shit because she's still alive, which, yeah, she herself is fucking tired of being a liability. She doesn't want this. And she also just wants people to actually talk to her in a civilized manner instead of always pulling shit over to Twitter where she doesn't even have a platform anymore. And she just can't do shit anymore without being seen as malicious or manipulative. And it turned out to be true because this fucking doc happened. She then goes on to further give some valid fucking criticism as to why the Excyclopedia, you know, a Sonic.exe wiki run by Kenji of all people, singled her exe out to be removed because of drama. Avery then acts like she tried to be quote-unquote buddy-buddy with him, but after being understandably frustrated, that's just making sure that there's no bad blood between them. You know, Rev kinda went apeshit on Avery, justifiably so. So I think being a bit kind afterwards is just, you know, normal. Now, here's where something actually questionable on Revie's part comes in. Her asking Avery if they want to co-own Faker, which is suspicious, to say the least. So yeah, congrats Avery, you have a point. Then immediately there comes another good point by Revie, asking why Faker needs to be removed in general, because, you know, separation of art and artist should always be a thing. Then Avery says that her talking about overdosing comes out of left field, which, not really, she was already depressed and suicidal due to all the slander and harassment you twats put her through. And also, she just fucking trusted you, Avery? Of fucking course she'd tell you about shit like that. This isn't out of left field, you caused this, and then also caused her to be willing to talk to you about it. By the way, when eventually a dog came out to expose the team, Avery essentially just blamed Revie, even though she did her best to help. Fantastic. Then there's also random ass DMs of Rev treating a broken down Avery with nothing but kindness. They discuss Chaotix's redesign. Rev makes it very clear that she doesn't want to harm Avery. Avery in turn is being an apathetic cunt when Revie asks for their thoughts on her. And she still admits to her faults, to which Avery just says, "You don't know when to let go, that's your main fucking issue." I don't think it's Revie who's struggling to let shit go, Avery. I really don't think so. Now after this active slander session, Avery speaks of giving Rev a chance, bitch where, saying that they were manipulated and gaslighted to a heavy degree, yeah, right, definitely, you were the victim of gaslighting, and telling people to cut ties with Revie and that she's manipulative. Then they go on to apologize to fucking everyone but the actual fucking victim of the situation, Revie herself. I would say that I don't have any words for you, Avery, but here are some. Go fuck yourself. Okay, next up, let's talk about some of the victims, well, quote-unquote victims, of Revie's. First, there's Madzilla. He finally admitted it wasn't grooming, and this time even publicly. Oh wait, it's just in a comment section and not his Twitter. Fuck off, dude. This is too little too late. You always knew it wasn't grooming. You confirmed it in your DMs with Revie. Why couldn't you confirm it on Twitter? Get fucked. Also, I would like to say a message from one of the victims that I got in contact with. Dreamy fucking carrots. Yes, the rat milk one. I got in contact with them. They said that they and Revie ended up parting on good terms. No, they weren't still involved in a call out because they were manipulated or something. No, don't make such claims. It's just complicated. I cannot show you any proof, sadly, as that would leak their new name they're under. So I know this seems untrustworthy. You just gotta believe me on this one. Still, I would like to say that just like Madzilla, Dreamy should have at least made like an anonymous public statement on this. This is just a bit cowardly, if you ask me. From both of them. The drama's basically over. Why hide shit anymore? Oh, and yeah, when I say over, I mean over. Revie has already left ages ago. That kinda makes this whole drama irrelevant. The Revie haters won. She left the internet. I did manage to get a final convo with her, then she unfriended everyone. I announced that in like a semi-public server. It then got shared on Twitter and went fucking viral. So yeah, Revie's gone. I hope you cunts are fucking happy now. So yeah. If you still think that Revie's a pedo or a groomer, there's genuinely no hope for you anymore. Now, even though that, you know, Lenny, me and all the other Revie defenders basically got everything right, let's be real, there's one thing we all fucked up on. Now, I don't really blame anyone, as that's just information that was completely hidden from the public, but it's the following. Rightburst was not the main man behind slandering Revie. It was, in fact, Kubi and the next person we'll talk about. Yeah, I didn't expect this either, but apparently this is the truth, so let me share it with you. Now, what really brought me onto this trail is that group chat I had with Rightburst. I'll tell you what it's about later. This is just about Falsecow right now. Basically, Rightburst told me that this whole Revie situation started in a group chat with Falsecow, Jasper, Dreamy, and Kubi. I then asked Jasper, yes, I'm in contact with him, we'll get to that later too, and he told me about his own role in all this, mediating between Kubi and Revie. Revie did try to communicate with Kubi, but Kubi immediately left, which, truth be told, was to be expected. Jasper then also confirms to me that Kubi and Falsecow were, in fact, the main people behind the Revie slander. So yeah, there you have it, from the sources themselves. Now let's talk about other bullshit that Falsecow has pulled off, because I'm fucking pissed at him. Now if you want to know why I am pissed at him, that is all because of a personal experience I've had. In case you don't remember, Lenny once made a normal CD voice reel. Then I decided to pull a prank and do the same with Sally Alt and Satanas to piss Falsecow and Rightburst off. That was specifically because they were kinda the main targets of my two different drama videos. Therefore I wanted them to actually acknowledge me, their critic, as, like I said before, I was completely ignored. Now, Falsecow did acknowledge me by sending me a fucking copyright strike. Now, the email of YouTube notifying me about this is sadly in German, so you guys probably won't understand it, but there should be a translation of it on screen right now. This is immature, to say the least. He literally tried to give my channel a fucking strike over a joke. Now, this is nothing new, okay? Falsecow is just like this. He tried to pull Sally.exe as a concept from the Nightmare series because he didn't like the way the games handled rape, which is a fair point. It didn't handle it well, but you don't own the concept of Sally.exe. Okay, this next one's just a small side point, but it's fun, so why not talk about it? You might recall me saying in my first drama video, you know, the 11-minute one on the original Falsecow thread, that I needed to use the Wayback Machine in order to access Falsecow's tweets. That was because Falsecow deactivated. But since then, he has returned to Twitter and showed disappointment because people defended Revie. He never really made the reason clear. But like, the assumption is reasonable considering he never really handled dissent well, you know? However, that return allowed me to find a batshit insane rant. I even made a meme about that, egg uploaded. So, I guess it's linked now. Yeah, no, I just made this tangent in order to, you know, lighten the mood a little, because we're about to go into two of the worst docs that I ever had to read. Now, Falsecow made two specific docs after a certain callout we'll talk about in a second. The first one came out really shortly after, just a couple days I think, and the second one like yet another month later in order to like have more prep time to explain away why he supported fucking JesterFrog. But like I said, more on that in a minute. Both docs are now unavailable for unknown reasons. But luckily I managed to copy the first one and download it, and the second one I didn't even bother with. I just saved it on the Wayback Machine. Now I don't want to talk about the JesterFrog bits yet, so we'll skip over the first talk and the first half of the second one, just to talk about the Revie section of putting the Sonic.exe controversies to rest. Falsecow's second and final talk on the situation. I'm gonna be going into detail, so get ready, this will take a bit. We start with him immediately victimizing himself and bringing up the sexual abuse he himself has suffered, even though it is basically irrelevant to what's happening right now. Just like in his original thread, I'm gonna have to say that your own experiences are irrelevant here unless the people themselves are involved. He then goes on to act like him explaining himself was ignored. Like, bitch, I gave everyone the offer and all you did was give me a fucking copyright strike. He asked the quite frankly insulting question of what could I ever gain from framing someone? Simple, you satisfied your fucking hero complex with Kubi, you piece of shit. I'm almost 30, I'm too old for clout seeking, nobody said you are. The call out was a wake up call for Revie, you ruined her life with lies. Revie was dangerous for those around her and I had to be the adult helping the scared kids. Bitch, Rightburst himself has over 20k followers. The fuck are you talking about? These people can speak for themselves. You did not need to get involved. Plus there's also just massive assumptions about intent for the Revie defenders. That the Revie defenders are in this for the sake of getting faker bag or just being entertained. Then we get into the hilarious JesterFrog bit. Put a pin in that, that'll be discussed in the next chapter. Right after, he immediately makes an actually good point that harassment and driving someone off a platform is not okay, as they'll just be able to come back and be even worse. He somehow uses that to connect the JesterFrog situation and the Revie situation, as though he himself was not guilty of that and the latter. Then comes a, quite frankly, ludicrous list of things that the Revie defenders have supposedly done to the victims. We'll be going over each of them one by one. First, sending them poorly summarized and monetized evidence, in quotes, videos about Revie's innocence, also in quotes. There's multiple issues with this. 1. 30 plus minutes is apparently poorly summarized now. 2. Only Lenny monetizes videos and he only did that like 2 or 3 days before the stalk, so what the fuck are you talking about? 3. The quotes on evidence is an empty way to fucking discredit us, and the quotes on innocence are just fucking laughable. Next up, comparing these two disgusting but similar situations to try and state how one was less bad or more hypocritical than the other, which not really, we weren't trying to relativize shit. The point was to show you guys being hypocritical by supporting the person that saved actual fucking CP, while demonizing the person being slightly sexual with quote unquote victims who said it was fine. Yeah, I can do the quote unquote thing too, you piece of shit. Harassing and provoking those kids to the point of them lashing out. This one's too fucking vague. What the fuck are you even talking about? Creating memes and joke Friday Night Funkin' mods to laugh at the issue. First of all, fucking cope, there will always be memes to mock how disgusting you guys are. And second of all, which mods do you mean? It can't be retaliation that has jack shit to do with Revie. So what fucking mods are you talking about? And don't say Forgotten Remnant. If you say that, I will laugh at you. Disrespecting the boundaries on purpose. Again, way too vague. What the fuck do you mean? If you mean asking for a statement on Revie, well, if you lie, we do want to know the truth, so maybe be honest next time around. Doxing and threatening. Okay, this one's a straight up lie. None of y'all were ever doxed over this, and threatening is once again too fucking vague. But Revie defenders, those were actually doxed, so fuck off with that. Creating fake accounts, pretending to be the abuser. The fake Revies were Revie haters trying to further ruin her image, and you know it. You're not that fucking stupid. Making the victims look bad for having an emotional reaction. Again, too vague. What the fuck do you mean? Criticizing you for lying doesn't count, by the way. Cyberstalking the victims to try and justify how in the wrong or at fault they were. Again, too vague. Screenshotting your tweets and the occasional DM ain't cyberstalking. Neither is publicly asking y'all to finally speak. He then has the fucking audacity to say, I can still go on and on. Please only do so if you actually have something worth saying, not vague shit and straight up lies. Then there's a random tangent with a bunch of screenshots about quote unquote reactive abuse. If you don't know what that is, that's basically calling the victim the actual abuser for the sake of manipulation. And he tries to say that that's what's happening here. Fuck off, Falsecow. The victim blaming part is ironic, by the way, but we'll get to that. He then says that he investigated the Revie situation quote-unquote neutrally, which I'm rather sure that I know what exactly he's referring to, but we'll get to it later. Apparently he even had a fucking breakdown, puzzling everything together, like, dude, that happened to me too, you're not fucking special. And has the fucking audacity to say that Revie took everything out of context. Show some evidence or fuck off, false copyright. He then uses it as an excuse to not have checked if JesterFrog is a predator or not. Dude, you make your first response to the call out just hours later, your first dog just 2 more days later. When did you look into it then? Where did you suddenly get the fucking time from if you were so busy investigating this shit? Next, he talks about his personal experiences in the field of children getting sexually assaulted, because he himself was fucking groomed, which just makes me ask, why the fuck would you lie about someone being a pedo if it's so serious to you? He said he left the project of investigating Revie and gave it to a neutral party, which I think I know who it is, but we'll get to that later too, and that the info will come out when it's fully compiled, not before. AKA never. At this point, you guys already had way more than half a year to do this shit. And by now it's been almost a full fucking year. This is never coming out, and we all know it. Then he officially severs all his ties with the excellent FNF community, which, good fucking riddance, and then talks about some cycle of trauma, like, yeah, there is one, you piece of shit, and you're the fucking cyclist, but we'll get into that in chapter 5. Then Falsecow finds yet another fucking way to pull the most audacious move he has pulled yet. How does he keep doing that, genuinely? He says that he owned up to all his faults without shame, which fuck no you didn't. You're still slandering Revie and you're still doing the same bullshit. You're not walking away, you're running away, you piece of shit. And then, once again, most audacious move yet, the final lines of this godforsaken document. I've already won by staying true to myself and my values despite it all. No you didn't. Can you look at yourself at the end of all this and say the same? Yes I can. Fuck you. As a small side note, Falsecow, the cunt with the biggest fucking hero complex, then complains about getting shit for lying, while also hiding behind Rightburst as a shield and doing jack shit while his mental health declines. You are such a fucking coward. Now, as I said before, the other doc was just about JesterFrog. So let's talk about what exactly happened to cause the creation of those docs.
Jesus fucking Christ, this is a mess. Before we get to the elephant in the room, I need to address some evidence first. Turns out JesterFrog is the new name Bunny Tables, along with a Steam account that includes Silas, Avery, and Animic Hummus as friends, as well as a Roblox account that includes Jasper in the friends list. For those who don't remember, JesterFrog also made the character Nominal CD, whose V8 clearly supports her with a heart. What? Even after JesterFrog's cancellation, Normal CD still lived on, with Avery and Jasper owning him. Hell, the VA had a whole Twitter account for it. She was also in the Cult of X Discord server, whose owner is currently unknown. According to Jasper and InfiniteJr, some other big names were included, notably Falsecow, his fiancée Noise, Kenny, his fiancée Tia.png, Jasper, Avery, Astronomicon, KG Peppis, and EXE Burner. Shut Up JoJo was also in there at one point, but left early and openly does not support JesterFrog in any way. So, if it wasn't obvious by now, someone got 200% mad and made a burner account. Animic Hummus also made his own creepypasta, not an EXE, a full-on creepypasta, with Jasper, JesterFrog, Silas, Avery, and Hop, which is probably short for Hopscotch, who's the VA of Normal CD. JesterFrog vented about being called a pedo, with Falsecow and Avery openly supporting her, making them look suspicious in the process. You could even say that there is a groomer among us. While I do have to admit a child-obsessed freak that can't stay soft at the thought of a child is a good insult for pedos, it's still horrendous what JesterFrog did, pedophile or not. She also claimed to be better than Revie, yet she knowingly had CP. The constant comparison when she's objectively worse yet gets supported because she has big names for friends speaks volumes about her and just shows her hypocrisy. After EXE Burner's thread came out, JesterFrog ran away immediately. Go figure. Falsecow said it was bullshit and claimed there was missed context. Regardless of context, you still supported someone who saved CP and refused to get rid of it. Saying that you get why it's disgusting does not negate it. If anything, that wording makes you look worse, plus you talked about his saving grace. He also spoke about a solution, which is just a doc. By the way, don't think we forgot about those, we'll get to those later. Dummy and JoJo were based enough to actually retweet it. Thanks for being one of the few sane people in this godforsaken community. As for the live Rightburst reaction, he just pulled shit out of his ass about how he felt betrayed by Avery. Also, for some reason, he also focused on getting the name My Horizon back. Multiple mods can share a name with no problems. Well, a mod I'm working on has his named Proxy, yet that name's already taken anyway. Com Gaming was just vague as shit about it, not much more to say there. Krybit said he wanted to be left alone about it, which is fair since he was misinformed. Oh, and thanks for that Cult of X comment, by the way. Speaking of Cult of X, it was also the server leak in this thread. Before I strip down this shite response, I gotta say that for some reason, Avery wanted to keep Normal CD, a character made by a groomer, in illegal instruction. Granted, I do believe in separate the art from the artist, yes. But knowing that Avery obviously hates Faker because of his creator just screams hypocrisy. But yeah, they made a response to EXE Burner's thread and took their leave. Let's go over that. While you may not support JesterFrog's actions, you still supported her and downplayed said actions. And if you did want her to change and get help, then don't downplay her actions by saying she's better than Revie. That's bullshit and you know it. You say that she tried to make some change for herself. No, she fucking didn't. She said herself that she did not need therapy, while Revie did much less and still went to therapy. You misinterpreted part of that whole situation. Bitch, you had multiple rumors exposed before, so why didn't you look into it when you discovered something happened? Oh, support to see her change apparently. Yeah, that's why you keep your head up and ignore when people say, shut the fuck up. Okay, so there was an update doc in November apologizing for JesterFrog's involvement, claiming to go to therapy and telling people not to trust the impersonators. I don't buy it one bit. Thankfully, Mudo called out Avery's bullshit. JesterFrog was only kicked out of illegal instruction because people kept leaving. Said people apparently knew of her actions and didn't do jack shit about it. Mudo didn't speak up before because he was too scared to get involved. Yeah, people who call it scumbags do get blamed for making people suicidal. It also turns out there was proof of Avery knowing as well. Someone spoke about a thread InfiniteJr made, we'll get to that later, which Neu Chrome agreed with. Falsecow made a response too, so let's go over that. So you say you learned about the issue, but when? You made this response 6 hours after the call-out went up. And if exposing a private friend server is a shitty thing for you to do, then say that to Revie's face, you hypocritical piece of shit. You're tired of issues like these being treated as exposed material. My brother in Christ, you supported someone who saved fucking CP. Now that I think about it, why do you all just say what JesterFrog did instead of directly stating what she did? Now the solution is communication, yet you weren't willing to talk about it? Maybe that's why you're called Falsecow. No, Falsecow, you don't have a right to be disappointed. Oh, and if communication is important, then why did Pillsbury Doughboy admit your Revie thread was rushed once she found out about it? So this isn't the way to handle it? Again, you supported a fucking groomer. The public deserves to know how you pull shit out of your ass. You should understand that people disapprove because everyone should disapprove of you. You've dealt with this bullshit before, why do you not prevent it another time? Or are you just too pussy to talk about Revie? Falsecow dropped another doc a couple days later, so let's break that down. Yeah, I get you don't support her actions, but that's the bare minimum. If you weren't friends or close, then why the fuck did you get involved in giving her advice? No, you didn't just support getting her therapy, you downplayed her actions too. Come to think of it, you didn't have time for this, yet you had time for Revie, which was a larger rabbit hole? Seems legit. Apparently you had suspicions that JesterFrog didn't get therapy, yet didn't do anything about it? What? Also, how does JesterFrog being a minor make things difficult? She was 17, which is not at all far from 18. You didn't want to judge without the full context, especially with your own experiences. That would be a fair point, but the context was easy to look for, especially with the people you associate with. You actually thought JesterFrog owned up to her actions, which is why you hated comparison to Revie. Again, context was easy to look for, and Revie did own up to everything. What are you on about? You even had that in your second thread. If you only learned the story the day the doc came up, then what's the response for? Oh, but you actually apologize for your ignorance. Neat. But you're still avoiding the Revie fiasco. And for what? And suddenly you talk about victims being silenced and then make shit about yourself? This is just sympathy baiting. And if you take online essay and CSA seriously, whatever the fuck that means, then why did you just ignore the JesterFrog bullshit? Instead, you decided to go down a rabbit hole of your own rather than just checking it doc. Unbelievable. Then you admit you have a hero complex, which was your motive in the Revie situation. Why am I not surprised? Oh hey, another actual apology. Good on you. Yes, you did encourage and defend that. Shut it. It feels like you just put more effort into formatting the doc than what the doc actually had to say here. This isn't the first groomer in the community, why did you not check the goddamn details? Oh wait, blatant favoritism. Now let's just go over the JesterFrog section of the second doc. You blame your friends for molding your opinion. What a start. You say you blindly admit what you're told, even though you were involved in 4 situations like this before: JC, Shannon, Driftstar, and Revie. Then you equate JesterFrog as an abuser to you as a victim. You don't just compare the two after you know who's who. Then you say you were misguided. True. You say EXE Burner should have privately communicated, yet both Gamereel and Large Lenny mentioned it in their respective videos. You then admit everyone was at fault. Correct. But then you say no one was informed when Avery sure as hell was. Then just a random tangent about ignorance, bystanding, and responsibility, when this is about your part. That's deflecting blame. You didn't get involved because of Revie, apparently. Well, that sure paid off, didn't it? The rest is just blaming others instead of yourself, as well as the community, and then going back on the Revie section. To sum up, this is just finding blame in everyone to avoid mentioning your own, acting like no one knew despite the fact it was public, a fuck ton of comparisons, and where the victim blamers? Grow the fuck up. All Adam's response boils down to is, well, he went private, so we can't really know. Also, he's still dating JesterFrog, apparently. Before Adam's Twitter went private, it showed that he was 20, and JesterFrog was 17. Groomception, anyone? Hey, remember Kenny and Tia? Yeah, they made a response too. Tia's thread is just, we were too busy to know, and there's missing context. She also calls it unfair and scummy. Maybe she should check who she actively talks to, then we'll see unfair. InfiniteJr's screenshot, being as old as it is, was not out of pettiness, but because he was thrown out of the server and couldn't get a new one. Oh, and we'll get to him later. Now, let's dive into the first part of Kenny's doc. The other part we'll save for later. You're hurt? Bro, you did a bad here. What kind of start is this? You then request that people not associate with him anymore. Again, this is about you, you dumb balding son of a bitch. Jasper immediately gets thrown out too, but we'll get to that later. All of this, yet you still gave Avery a chance. They were not negligent. They just lack a moral compass. But to give credit where credit is due, Kenny doesn't condone JesterFrog's publicity, vouched for Falsecow, and actually thanked EXE Burner. As for JesterFrog, you didn't have the whole context. I think we all get the point by now. You're just making excuses. You were also disappointed in everyone and blamed Jasper? And you downplayed Avery's role in defending JesterFrog? They were her main defender, and it's as clear as glass. But you also support people trying to better themselves and say it still doesn't negate what she did. Cool. All you knew was something happened and that she was trying to be better? Fair enough, I guess. Now, it's unacceptable that they never tried to check out the one doc that showed everything about JesterFrog, especially since Kenny later famously said he knew so much about Revie. However, considering how they were actually pretty busy, I'll write this off as a mistake out of ignorance, not apathy. Hope you didn't forget GPT and on, because we're gonna go over their additions real quick. For Falsecow, they point out his hypocrisy, how he clearly showed support for JesterFrog, and the fact that supporters look like Mr. I may be a pedophile, but at least I'm not rude. For Jasper, there's a whole bunch of supporting JesterFrog, which I won't go into, but it'll still be in the evidence folder for completion. And then there's Adam. There's some screen caps that show he's got a big ol' case of I'm just sorry I got caught. Keep in mind that from what we could tell, he was still dating JesterFrog at the time. Now, GPT Anon talked with Adam since he privated, so let's decipher what we can. Adam told a sob story for damage control, proved that he knew about JesterFrog, and responded even though no one can see it. GPT Anon shows that Adam revealed that he knew, confirmed to him about JesterFrog not going to therapy, meaning that Adam lied again. InfiniteJr also gave his 2 cents, so let's cover that as well. He admits to supporting her as bunny tables and reveals a new server called Hell Michigan, which is a server with big EXE names similar to Cult of X. After the allegations surfaced, people let her stay thinking she changed. This reveals that Infinite supported her at the time, even to the point of letting her go on as EXE. Apparently she was involved in the allegations too, yet Tia showed that discussion was on July 8th, when JesterFrog and Infinite were cool mere days before. What a fucking backstabber. He also mentions his own cancellation and how people still supported JesterFrog, making them hypocrites. Then Adam trying to safe face, that's literally it. He also offered peace to his own slanderers, but GameRule will get to that whole thing later. Infinite then reveals other people in Hell Michigan, including Jack Gore, Egophobia, and KG Beppis. The rest is just rambling that's irrelevant to JesterFrog. Now, back to the live Rightburst reaction. Actually, I shouldn't really call it live since EXE Burner showed screenshots that proved someone told Rightburst about JesterFrog beforehand. He then responded to EXE Burner saying that it was a Revie supporter and that he believed Avery properly handled the situation. EXE Burner deleted the screenshots after that, probably out of intimidation. But EXE Burner came back with more screenshots showing that the aforementioned someone was Nimbus Cumulus. Nimbus explained the situation to Rightburst, not giving him shit about the whole Revie thing. Well, he's actually pretty nice, giving Rightburst advice. Heh, that rhymes. Nimbus and Rightburst shit-talked the 3.0 team, as well as put a pin on the dementia thing. Rightburst's second response is just fucking hell. He tries to prove Nimbus is a Revie supporter and falls flat on his face. Nimbus actually seemed neutral on Revie, yet gave Rightburst a helpful critique. As for JesterFrog again, he did what he could about getting her out of illegal construction and left the rest to Avery. Basically, every response was I didn't know except for Rightburst, somehow. It seems like a sufficient point at first, but both GameRule and Large Lenny pointed out in their respective videos, and it took a fucking Twitter thread to get people's attention. You wannabe saints are fucking unbelievable. All in all, everyone fucked up that definitely made the backlash earned. Except Avery and Adam, those two can go to hell. Ah, fuck, I forgot a response. Jasper responded with, holy shit, this is big. Yeah, I'm not experienced enough for this one.
Okay, Jasper's apologies, kinda the standard fare for this. I supported their growth, not the previous actions, again. Yeah, fair, whatever. He says that he understands people disliking his decision and that he viewed JesterFrog as 2 kids putting themselves in danger. I mean, to be honest, kinda. The victim was in danger of being groomed and JesterFrog was in danger of being exposed. He says that his views were apparently tainted through his own trauma and that he's already basically ready to be hated. Yeah, we'll get back to that in a second. He then says that he forgot to unfriend JesterFrog because of his ADHD, and apparently even had the same thing happen with his own abuser. That does certainly explain it, but it can be read as a cheap excuse. He then keeps talking about his bad mental health and how he is not a lolly or a shotacon, and ends it with moving on from the account and saying that he doesn't want to be defended. He talks about wishing to have been talked to first, and about something happening in March, which again we'll get to. And until now it was all normal, but this is where it starts getting weird. Nayuchrome, the director and creator of Sonic.exe Rerun, suddenly calls him out for drawing NSFW of people's characters, some of those people being minors, without consent. Again, we'll get back to that. Now, for some reason, she didn't call out Avery too for not giving a shit, considering it's apparently a problem. Honestly, the reasoning Nayu gives in these screenshots for why it's a problem is also fucking weird, and I'm uncomfortable. Bro, the world doesn't revolve around you. A sentiment of theirs that will also matter later. It then ends with confirmation from Avery that Jasper doesn't do it anymore. Wait, then why the fuck are you calling him out on it? And why do you do it 2 months after this convo, while he's already been called up for something actually fucking noteworthy? Fuck off, Nayu. Like, she isn't even a special case. Jasper got so much shit from so many people that he ended up having a mental breakdown or 3 and being mocked for having a quote-unquote Joker arc, which I'll admit I was also kinda guilty for back then. It was met with fucking apathy by people like KG and we'll get back to you, you piece of shit. Now, how this would have been supposed to go is just an apology, the community's reaction, and that's it. But the way everyone reacted and the way Jasper talked about this leaves me a few sudden questions. 1. What the fuck happened in March? And about that, Avery spoke of March and the DMs Nayu leaked, so is it connect to drawing NSFW of the minor's character? Next, why the fuck was Jasper so ready to be hated? Like, saying something about it having happened before. Third question, why did Nayu talk to fucking Avery about being uncomfortable with Jasper instead of, with Jasper himself? Fourth, why did Nayu bring those old DMs out either way if it was apparently already resolved? 5. Why did Jasper have such a bad breakdown while everyone else in the JesterFrog situation just left normally, gave a response, and stayed, or just ignored him? And, last but not least, why was that breakdown met with apathy? The quest to answer these fucking questions led me down a massive rabbit hole. This is probably going to be like the longest chapter in this fucking video. So strap on, let's do this. Okay, so in March, everything started with a twit longer made by KG, so we're off to a great fucking start. Jasper is immediately bombarded with the following accusations: mass manipulation, possible faking of OSDD, over-sexualization of characters made by minors, creation of pornography of characters without creator consent, public NSFW content with easy access, no reinforced management of NSFW channels regarding the protection of minors, and fictional glorification of abuse. Immediately, the twit longer mentions some previous posts being deleted, which, fantastic, we didn't need full context anyway. But those are still a lot of claims about Jasper, so how about we check the reasoning out? Okay, first, that whole shebang about the OSDD thing, which is short for Other Specified Dissociative Disorder. It's, similar to DID, but not the same thing. That has some issues. 1. No diagnosis doesn't mean it's fake, it just means it's undiagnosed. Next, the speed of the splitting also doesn't mean anything. Everyone's neurodivergency is different, you are not a fucking psychologist. Third, multiple witnesses with OSDD, DID is vague as shit, and talking so vaguely about witnesses is one of the oldest lies in the book. Also, people with a disorder aren't automatically experts on it. A heart attack survivor ain't a fucking heart surgeon. Then something sexualization of characters owned by minors, who fucking cares? Look, until Jasper actually sexualizes a minor, please shut the fuck up. Separate art and artists for fuck's sake, especially if the characters are adults. Then some point about lewd depictions of other creators' characters without consent? What kind of point is this? Let me just ask Sega per mail if I can use Sonic for porn, since apparently creator consent is needed for fan works. Seriously, I do get the sentiment of putting creators first, especially indie creators, but this is fucking stupid. Why would you call someone out over this? Next up, the NSFW account not being locked. I just want to preface this by saying, Literally 99% of NSFW accounts on Twitter are not fucking private. You know, you just get blocked if you follow as a minor. And yeah, makes sense. Not everyone wants to follow in order to look at the porn. That's literally how this works. People need to judge this shit for themselves. Seriously, why are you bringing this shit up specifically against Jasper? Oh, and if you really cared about the safety of minors, why did you not censor it and instead just bring more attention to that fucking account? Next up, some point about the server having no restriction of NSFW channels, instead just a role rather than the age restriction that is integrated into Discord. This one's actually a valid point. Congratulations! The first one out of 5 so far. Next up, Curse's story is straight up called abuse glorification. I don't think I need to tell you this is fucking stupid, but let's talk about it. 1. Vent art is a thing, you dickheads. Like, it just exists. Let people get their emotions out that way, and their feelings and everything else. Next, it's not romanticized in the slightest. The whole point of Curse is to show how fucking terrible abuse can be. That's the whole story. And yes, that point about Curse being essentially Jasper's second Sona may be correct, but irrelevant. That still doesn't make this abuse glorification. That's the end of the twit longer. We do get some statements by Kenny and KG Beepus. Of fucking course Kenny is involved in this. And let's just quickly go through them as I have a thing or two to say. Now, on Kenny's statement, he says that he also started the investigation on Jasper and Uptaunt alongside KG. Uptaunt is definitely warranted, but Jasper really isn't. He says that he won't let people feel unsafe, pressured, or scared due to others, but will most certainly make everyone fear him by continuously spreading lies about people like Jasper and Infinite, thus forcing people to fall in line for him. And yes, we'll talk about Infinite later. I did not do this with ill intention. Yeah, then why the fuck did you lie, Kenny? We found an entire hell of a mess I was not expecting. You made one seemingly good point, and I'm just waiting on making my rebuttal in a second. I'm not happy, I'm not proud, I'm disappointed. Oh, fuck off, you bold motherfucker. For those who believe I took the wrong course of action, I will not debate or offer rebuttal. Wait, Kenny, I think this phrasing doesn't get your point across well enough. Let me fix that for you. I will not acknowledge any and all criticism you give me. There, fixed it. Leave Tia and me alone. We feel betrayed by Jasper, he was like a brother to me. And that's why you spread bullshit like this and never talk to him directly. Right. I am still grappling with the facts of what was brought to light. How fucking overdramatic can you be? Remember, one good point. Alright, next up, KG's statement. Let's get into it. Now, apparently, this is just a call for Jasper to seek help. Sure, buddy, that's where you spread nonsensical claims. You are responsible for the recent sexualization of the X community. Bro, Kenny literally helped you with this twit longer. And Kenny made Rebooted. Leave all platforms, drop your public image. Wow, you really just asked him to give up his current life like that over complete nonsense. You are no longer welcome in the X community. Well, at least you cunts know that you manipulated it into something that you few people can control. You will be dropped from all projects you are associated with, and I will see to that personally. Okay, first of all, this line would actually be justified if Jasper did provably do something wrong, which just doesn't seem to be the case. This way it just makes KG looks like a psycho, and it won't be the last time he looks like one. Okay, after these two horrendous statements, we have a massive Imgur thread, which I'll also go through now. It's basically the evidence for this twit longer, so I guess it's important. Let's get into it. I'll skip over anything I have nothing to say on because it's either empty or whatever. Okay, the fourth image has something interesting. It talks about the lack of strictness in the NSFW rules, but like, the rules are crystal clear. Nothing was enforced. Yeah, fair point, but it's not really proven either. And now again, the role thing actually has a reason I'll get into, but for now, why the fuck didn't you talk to Jasper about this first? Then the seventh image is about coercion, apparently, but the other person agrees to it, so I don't know if that really counts? Then 7 through 12 all take place strictly in the NSFW channel. Just like, keep this in mind, everything NSFW here happens in the NSFW channel. Then 7 and 10 are literally repeat evidence, this one's just fucking random. And the 12th one just shows that asking nicely is apparently coercion now. The fuck? 13 through 18, the claims about the NSFW account were stupid enough. This just makes him look even dumber somehow. Having NSFW unlocked is nothing new. 17 and 18 are proof that Jasper actually listened and privated the NSFW account, which is apparently a bad thing? Then 19 through 21 is this without permission bullshit again, and it looks even dumber in practice, just like the unlocked NSFW account. 22 through 24, like, wow, exes really aren't allowed to be horrible people anymore. I was fucking right when I said that last time. Then 25 through 34, can you guys seriously shut the fuck up? This is not glorifying abuse in any way, it's made to look as horrible as possible. Like, seriously, you see it in, like, 29, that Curse's story is a fucking melodrama. Sure, but that ain't something to cancel Jasper over. It's a genre. And then, like, the claim of 31 is just hilarious. Strictly negativity, no healing process. A, not every fucking story needs to be positive, you twat. Like, that's literally the beauty of fiction. And B, this literally shows Curse having someone to support him. That's literally part of the healing process. Then, okay, next up, 35 through 38. Why the fuck is a non-therapist acting like they know how quickly someone with OSDD can have splits? Again, everyone is different in this shit. And then with number 39, here's something interesting for you. Trauma is not a necessary factor for splitting, just the most common cause for OSDD and DID. Splits can happen for many different reasons. Do some fucking research, please. So, that's the March situation. A bullshit twit longer with one point that doesn't immediately fall apart. And I'm now left to assume that this is what led to such a community outcry that Jasper was ready to be hated. Now, while I am not sure if the community outcry was actually that bad, because I wasn't there for it, I was definitely there to see the fallout the Exaburner callout had on Jasper. His mental health was just fucked, and he eventually went over to fucking 4chan. Okay, so imagine this. A whole community turns against you, and you kinda lose everything. And the last safe haven you have is a 4chan board. And then you end up having a fucking breakdown on it. That's not a good breakdown. That was really not great. When I found out about it, I went over to the board and decided to give him some, life advice alongside my brutal honesty. Because, I think that's the best way to show that I'm genuine with this. The whole situation genuinely fucked him over, and he even realized that he was fucking borderline through it. The situation ended with him getting better, and after a bunch more things I won't share, he and I got into contact on Discord. I will now show you what he had to say in a, let's call it an interview with me. Now, I want to preface this by saying that I'm just going to be sharing Jasper's explanations for his own actions. This is not me excusing them, I'm still rather critical of them. It's the same sentiment of supporting his growth, not his actions. I just want him to have a voice after it was taken from him so often. Alright? The JesterFrog situation was out of ignorance, not malice. Jasper takes full accountability and is aware of his mistakes. He did look over the JesterFrog exposed doc, but didn't fully understand it, and it led him to false conclusions. He didn't even properly realize that CP was involved. Then he also says that the ADHD part of the apology was apparently just read wrong. It was just an explanation, not an excuse. Now, if anyone actually accepts it is up to them. My own judgment will remain unsaid. Okay, next I brought out that weird ass comparison he did on 4chan, JesterFrog and Revie under the name Ferret. He did say it was both a genuine concern regarding Revie as well as just him being petty over some personal squabbles with her. He is willing to admit that the concern was unrealistic as the comparison was just 3 months after the original callout, and that change just doesn't happen that quickly in humans. He is now indifferent and says that both him and Revie will just stay in their lanes, not clashing with each other. Then we talked about that twit longer, and he says that role locking a channel overrides the NSFW lock. That does make me ask why it was even role locked, but yeah, okay. He also admits that he never ID checked anyone, which he now does in his personal friend server. But most of the other claims are still fucking random bullshit, so don't think that Kenny and KG actually made some good points. Also, a funny thing, Kenny and Falsecow, who's also involved in this mess, never confronted Jasper because they were apparently scared of him. What the fuck? But he took it to the public first? Okay, seriously, Jasper is the least scary person in the whole fucking community, I swear to god, I'm not buying that excuse. Fuck off. Then we discussed Nayu's completely random callout, and he just says that he didn't even draw actual porn, just slightly suggestive art. If you squint, we'll get to that suggestive art soon enough. He didn't even have any suggestive intentions in that art, which, yeah, he didn't. Again, we'll get to that art piece in a second. And that it's based on the assumption that people in the adult chats were minors, which is a weird ass assumption. And again, that idea of it's a minors OC is still fucking stupid and doesn't change a thing. He goes on to speak about how people do everything except for actually talking to him, and it's, become a recurring thing. Speaking of people who refuse to talk to him, we next discussed Kenji and his apathy. Now, Jasper apparently thought that they were close, which, isn't that just fun to have someone you think you're close with make that fucking twit longer on you? Jesus. But then, eventually, Kenji admitted to liking neither Jasper nor Curse. But he was just never transparent about it until he was fucking confronted, which is just kinda disgusting. Seriously, how hard is it to be honest about that shit? When I then comment on the sudden switch in how the community treated him, he showed me tweets of him telling people to quit fucking white knighting him. Apparently his fans almost got someone to fucking kill themselves. It was Kenny, as after Jasper was proven innocent from the March twitlonger, people were rightfully angry. By the way, can I just say that it's ironic how Kenny would later be involved in the Infinite Situation, but again, we'll get to that later. Next up, I just kinda mentioned the Joker arc offhand, but it turned out that that was actual, genuine self-sabotage. In case you didn't notice it yet, Jasper was insanely mentally fucked from all this. He didn't have any meds, no sleep, no food, nothing really ever since the exit burner fed. He lost over 50 friends, turned out to have borderline, and has abandonment issues that people fucking knew about. Christ! And I guess on a lighter note, Jasper did give Curse away to someone called Madman, who we'll also get to later. But eventually, after my talk with him, Jasper came back for a moment with a proper apology for all his mistakes. He just really wanted to be held accountable for them. He decides to remove himself from as many spaces as possible and now actively goes to therapy and is trying to improve himself. I can vouch for that, by the way. He says that he is tired of running away and will now force himself to be better. He apparently even tried to kill himself, which opened his eyes to that. No more self-sabotage and no more self-harm. He will be better. All in all, I think this is a fantastic apology. It's just too bad it got deleted due to terrible responses. Wait, egophobia? Weren't you in Hell, Michigan? A server that also housed JesterFrog? Like seriously, you've both been called up for the same shit. Fuck off, you twat! Okay, so long story short, Jasper gets mistreated way too much. Straight up, this is just as bad as Revie, if not worse. But now that I went down this rabbit hole, I can answer the questions from the start. What happened in March was a twitlonger full of wrong or shit accusations. Jasper was ready to be hated because shit like that twitlonger caused tons of harassment before. People not discussing their issues with Jasper himself is a recurring issue. Only known reason for that is that bullshit about being afraid of him, which I still don't buy. I have no idea why Nayu brought that disproven shit back up. She's just a petty piece of shit, I guess. Next, Jasper's mental breakdown was so bad because this was a fucking cycle of abuse against him by now. And it was met with apathy because people apparently just really like mistreating Jasper. So that's it then, rabbit hole solved, right? Okay. Speaking of people who own Curse getting harassed. Wait, what the fuck is this document? Discovered concerns regarding Jasper May and Uptaunt. Interesting. Wait, 133 pages? What the fuck? Okay, first things first. I just want to remind you guys that Jasper is a heavily abused and mistreated member of the exit community, while Uptaunt is a sexual harasser that was still supported long after that was known. That makes these two people a weird fucking duo to talk about, but let's check this doc out and see what it has to say. Also, this will be heavily summarized, otherwise this chapter alone would take at least 2 hours. Something of note here is that, just like with every other Falsecow doc, this is not fucking downloadable. So if there was outcry, they could just easily delete it without any trace of it left. Because that's an option honest people always need to keep open. It's apparently also a response to another document by Avery. Whoa, great, this really can't get any more complex, can it? Okay, let's then quickly talk about Avery's doc. Now, this doc is a response to Kenji's twitlonger. Avery goes on to say that he doesn't condone drawing NSFW of OCs without the owner's permission, but once again I have to ask who the fuck cares, but they also do believe that it should have been addressed better. Now apparently Jasper never publicly advertised his NSFW account, meaning that minors probably wouldn't even know of it. unless they saw it in the call-out post. So congrats, Kenny and Keiji, you really protected the minors there. Next up is just an obvious point that curse isn't abuse glorification, it's venting and a coping mechanism. Genuinely, what the fuck was the thought process behind this shitty point? Oh, here's something interesting about that sexualization of a minors you'll see. It wasn't NSFW at all. The character is aged up to around 30, and the owner fucking asked for it. Now, Keiji and Kenny apparently still contacted the owner about it, apparently found out that they asked for it, and still made that shitty accusation. And this was confirmed by Bomnon. If you don't know who that is, it's an artist that's rather reputable in the exit community. Also, fun fact, Kenny lied about contacting Jasper ahead of time and him not cooperating. Okay, no, I need to expand on this. First of all, he admitted to being the guy who started all this while saying that he contacted Jasper and only got denial. He said that about him, both publicly and privately. Meanwhile, their actual only instance of contact was a call about Jasper's interactions with Kenny's fiancée, Tia, which was also made unnecessarily public, by the way. Jasper later tried to reach back out the next fucking day, but got fucking blocked. Jojo, Chad that they are, tried to resolve this shit. Kenny said that Jasper didn't reach out the day after their 11 minutes call, but apparently had him unblocked the entire time, waiting for him to reach out. What the fuck? Wait, you're waiting for him to reach out instead of you who actually has the problem here. Okay, whatever. I just cannot speak to them with how they're behaving. Kenny, shut the fuck up. What do you mean by how they're behaving? You fucking man-child. But Jojo, still being like the best person in this fucking community, tells him to directly talk to Jasper because that's how you handle shit like this. Then they go over to Jasper and convince him to talk to Kenny, but once Jasper does that, he gets no fucking response. So, Kenny, do you want Jasper to reach out to you or not? Seriously, when you keep flip-flopping like this, it's getting harder and harder to take you seriously. So, yeah, unsurprisingly, Kenny clearly did not focus on contacting the person he's accusing of shit. And this is not the last time this happened. But again, later. Okay, let's just finish up every stock real quick. Then there's a whole ass fucking convo where Jasper admits to his faults to Com and the latter just cheering him up. And the rest is about Uptaunt, so quick speed round. He acted terribly around minors, which is very fucking vague, but whatever. And it should have apparently still not been a public issue. So even when they were right, that fucking twitlonger was moronic. Congrats, you two. Now this doc also ends with some statements, but considering that we have a 133 page doc to get back to, I'd rather skip them and tell you to look into this yourself. Seriously, these statements are a bit interesting. JesterFrog fucking cameos here. So can we now get to the big doc I want to talk about? No fuckers, we still have another 6-page one by Avery, Jasper and KG called Final Statement. So let's get into it real quick. Okay, this starts with a thank you message to Avery for the doc that I just discussed. KG Beepus has supposedly also apologized, but Kenny and Tia have stayed completely silent. It's also just clarified that KG's involvement in the twitlonger was rather minor. He may have published it, but he was essentially just used by Kenny and Tia as a shield so that they could run away. And it worked. KG ended up being heavily harassed. And he apparently owned up to his mistakes, so that's Gucci. Now, Kenny's and Tia's response leaves a lot to be desired. Because there is none. There's no closure, no reaching out, nothing. For fuck's sake, guys, say something when you slander someone. Then after things calmed down, Avery finally got Kenny to add Jasper again, but nothing was said. Kenny just talk to someone directly for once in your fucking life. He apparently acknowledged his mistakes in DMs of Avery, but never did anything to change. So yeah, that's basically the doc. We'll skip the final statements again. Let's just talk about the main fucking course already. No more interruptions. Okay, so this big doc starts by acknowledging that mistakes were made and they take accountability. An unclear "we" is used, and the formatting and the download function being turned off just shows that Falsecow made this doc. And since KG was no longer involved at this time, that basically means it's just him, Tia, and Kenny. And then we get a fucking legal disclaimer. Holy shit! That's one way to avoid your repercussions for the crime of slander. Okay, next up there's 2 Imgur threads again. One on Uptaunt, one on Jasper. I've already discussed the one on Jasper, so I'm skipping that, but the Uptaunt one, real quick. 1 through 3 show that Uptaunt, an adult, 18, for some reason the age isn't mentioned, was flirting with Kubikork, a minor, 16. Now, this leaves the question as to why the fuck Uptaunt's name was not mentioned directly. This is like literally the same shit they pulled with Revie. It's a lie by omission. Like, yeah, it's definitely worth criticizing, don't get me wrong, but you guys made him look like a pedophile here. Then the rest of this thread is either him putting NSFW shit on the timelines of his potentially underage followers and being overly sexual and making people uncomfortable, both of which are very valid complaints, I'll be real. Like I said, Uptaunt definitely deserves this criticism. I'm just having a problem with how Jasper is handled here. We can now get into the main meat of this all, but that does require some sub-chapters because of how massive this doc is. So we'll be going through the chapters of the doc. Introduction, regarding Jasper May's perspective on the situation, regarding the remaining inconsistencies within Jasper's statement, regarding sexual content, the exposure as such and given consent, regarding curse and the cautioned fictional glorification of abuse, and regarding speculations on OSDD system concerns. Couple things real quick. Why the fuck are you guys so hyper-focused on Jasper? What's with this stupid regarding thing? This is a call-out doc, don't be fucking artsy about it, just be direct. And I should probably just skip over at least half of these chapters, because those claims have never had any substance behind them. But for the sake of intellectual honesty, I will not skip over anything. Alright, first up, that introduction. After the initial situation of Uptaunt, he kept posting NSFW shit, which, yeah, fair complaint. Or, well, it would be if they weren't on his ass for just answering someone's question because they are 17. Also, what the fuck is he supposed to do other than put no minors in his bio? Like, he's still a public figure. Then apparently a character design is NSFW because his belly is exposed and he has a minuscule bulge. I guess it's a fair concern, but it's funny how just implying that a penis exists is no NSFW content. This is what the FNF community has come to. Then Jasper also gets shit because he retweeted that design. Oh no. Eventually, Uptaunt did make an apology for the claims made against him, and that apology is getting quote-unquote dissected in this doc. I say quote-unquote because it has some massive fucking issues. So first of all, explaining why you did what you did, which in Uptaunt's case was an unhealthy coping mechanism, is apparently taking away accountability. Immediately after that bullshit, they complain that Uptaunt doesn't explain what he's coping with. A, shit like that can be insanely private, and B, you would have just said that he would be taking away accountability either way, so why bother? Then, Falsecow has the audacity to call this a vague and dismissive apology, like he's one to talk. Then apparently they all have a problem with him following minors while still having no minors in his bio, which is weird because he just has their content on his timeline and not vice versa. So what exactly is the problem here? Next, they are supposedly concerned for the minors following him. To which I just gotta ask, are you sure that you're just not too ashamed to admit that you're wrong? He's not a fucking pedo and not an active threat to minors, even if he is fucked up in other ways. And this is everything on Uptaunt this doc has to offer. It ends on page 9 out of 133. So let's see what they have to say on Jasper then. Okay, before anything else, I just quickly want to say that constantly referring to Revived, one of Jasper's headmates, as Jasper/Rev is insanely disrespectful, as you have yet to prove that Jasper is faking OSDD. Seriously, quit fucking acting like you proved it. Now, I wouldn't even need to prove to you that Jasper's system believing that Kenji's subtweet is about Jasper is a rational thought, because, you know, it ended up being true, but I'll still do my best. Keep in mind that Kenny just randomly removed him from the server and threw a shit fit the day before in his DMs. You saying that there's no supportive evidence doesn't make it true. Kenny made it clear that Uptaunt and Jasper were thrown out for personal reasons, so it was clear that something was brewing considering how much of a dickhead Kenny is. Then they have the fucking gall to call someone who's talking about how they're rightfully worried that they'll be fucked over mass manipulation. Also, Revived saying "I fear for our safety" likely refers to the system, not Uptaunt, you cunts. Oh, and no, telling people to not approach Kenny about this until Jasper can is not fucking controlling. This isn't about stopping people from informing themselves through Kenny, this is about Jasper solving it privately, which Kenny seems to be fucking allergic to. Seriously, nobody ever talked to Jasper or Revived in this. Of course they don't want others to get involved and be misinformed. Jesus. Next, there's some comment about there being no contact until JoJo's intervention, which I just need to say, for the sake of a timeline, this was on March 3rd, literally a day after Jasper's and Kenny's last call, and then Jasper still reached out the same fucking day. Chill. Seriously, give people time to heal first, you self-obsessed brats! Instead of initiating a straightforward approach to Kenny's behavior, it was phrased as a genuine inquiry to Kenny's well-being. Well, yeah, duh, because Jasper wants to be kind and not immediately kick down Kenny's metaphorical door guns blazing. You don't know how the conversation could have gone if Kenny responded. Then Kenny is unnerved at Jasper having screenshots from the server, so he really does want to keep everything secret, huh? Revive then tries to speculate as to why Kenny would do all this. Then he comes up with an quite honestly understandable reason of false grooming allegations, as Jasper was 19 at the time and Uptaunt was 18. If you remember the age gap between Madzilla and Revie, this is nothing unprecedented. KG then comes in and tells him to relax and not bother, while Revive is stressed because Jasper was closing his fucking headmates off. It's definitely understandable to say he was aggressive. You don't shut down people like that while they're panicking. And then I'm just gonna give you a hilarious line that I will quote word by word. While we do acknowledge that Kenny's behavior around the time of the conversation was indeed vague. No, stop, full stop here. Be fucking clear, then people won't have to guess like this. You cannot blame someone for fucking panicking when they don't know what's gonna happen to them. Be clear, communicate. Fucking hell, Kenny. But when Jasper publicly talks about it and clearly states what happened, that gets called guilt tripping and emotional manipulation. You know, if a factual statement of what you did makes you look like horrible people, then maybe that's not manipulation, but you're just horrible people. Luckily, as said before, Jojo comes in for the rescue, makes Jasper approach Kenny. Kenny is being a twat about it and doesn't react. He apparently doesn't want to discuss anything because he knew of the private chat, for fuck's sake. Why do you keep jumping to conclusions like this, Kenny? Why are you being such a man-child, Kenny? And no, I'm not joking about that being Kenny's reason for not talking to him. I quote, "We suspect that Jasper/Rev may have been attempting to cover up what was being said in the off-topic channel, and that Jasper was not aware of the fact that Kenny held the knowledge of the contents within his messages to others." Seriously, where the fuck does this come from? Jasper is not this kind of person, and you fucking know that. Like, this is literally him doing what Jojo told him to. What the fuck do you want from him? And then when discussing the quote-unquote remaining inconsistencies within Jasper's statement, they talk about shit like Jasper rightfully complaining about not being contacted, but Falsecow immediately blaming him for the same thing. Bro, that was Kenny's responsibility, and you know it. And also Jasper's good point of, "I've made it expressly clear to everyone that if I do something out of line to hold me accountable," gets ignored, weirdly enough. Then it turns out that Jasper calling his mistake, which, reminder, is him not being strict enough of hiding NSFW from minors, a fuck up, is apparently an issue to these pieces of shit. And no, I do not care about what justification they give. This is just way too fucking pedantic. Then the funniest part of this doc. Nobody forced him to make his trauma public. Yes, you fucking did. You called Curse's story abuse glorification and denied his OSDD, both of which exist specifically due to Jasper's trauma. Curse exists for Jasper to vent, the OSDD is directly caused by it. So neither claim could properly be debunked without making the trauma public. This is coercion, just in an indirect manner. Then, in another attempt to make Jasper look as bad as possible, him explaining things how they are is called a way to garner sympathy. No, like I said before, it only looks that way because you guys acted like actual fucking sociopaths. Of course he looks sympathetic, he's the victim. Then, when Jasper says that he never drew anything out of line, which we have no reason to doubt, we saw what that NSFW image was, that's just called completely false. It gets called harmful and contradicts his apology of hurting minors, which just no. Okay, let me break this down for you. The apology was for letting minors have an easy way of seeing NSFW shit, not for drawing porn of their characters or anything of that sort. Got it? And then, ironically enough, they cause a lot of harassment to Jasper by lying about him, then say that harassment won't be tolerated. Genuinely the funniest shit I've ever seen. Next up, the shit about the sexual content. Okay, let's get into it. However, there's way too much reiteration on the anger thread, so I'm gonna be skimming through this. Plus, it was already kinda stupid before. There's this general point that checking someone's birthday through an ID would have been enough, which, yeah, fair enough, but you could have seriously just told Jasper in private and he would have made that change. He is approachable like that. And when talking about consent, you are correct, but missing something. It's only applying to yourself. The same way your parents don't consent for you, you don't consent for your fictional characters. Plus, fair use exists for a reason. Of fucking course, Jasper should probably ask first for a moral reason, but I don't consider that a violation of consent because it wasn't necessary in the first place. Then there's this weird ass point of a dark-skinned female character's purpose being to attract people into a cult being an example of a racist stereotype. That would definitely be valid if the character wasn't a fucking doll brought to life. This is not an actual person and not an actual representation of people. It's a doll, an object. As a matter of fact, I personally just consider it a lot more racist to compare an object that happens to look like a black person to an actual black person. But maybe that's just me. Then there's the horrible misdeed of Jasper's, which is giving proper trigger warnings for his account. And that somehow gets criticized. Yes, calling the account 14+ does invite minors, but if they stick around after reading suggestive themes right after, Jasper isn't really the one to blame. The fuck can he do? Then there's also another point. You might remember the Amor situation like a year ago. There was also this other person involved called Blue Skies TV. They got out for some shit. Jasper was heavily conflicted as they were kinda close, but did dip when the weird shit dropped. Part of why he was so conflicted was that Blue even defended Jasper from that bullshit twitlonger back in March. Now it is kinda weird that Jasper reacted to Blue's expose with a send-off, but ultimately he still left Blue behind and no longer associates with him. So what's the issue? Some people are just conflicted, some people are just complex and not as cartoonishly one-dimensional as this docs offers. Alright, so let's talk about the curse thing again, because that's so much fun. I should realistically skip this has always been bullshit, but for the sake of honesty, let's do this. Oh, but it's not clearly stated to prevent. Fuck off, it's not glorified in any way either. And when they say glorify, they apparently mean focusing on just the abuse, regardless of how negatively it's presented. They also say that there is no supportive evidence claiming that this is an abuse story for the sake of coping. Oh, so now you can look into Jasper's head? I might just say that the escapism stuff is also completely stupid because it has nothing to do with abuse glorification. But seriously, something not being explicitly stated to be an event story doesn't make it abuse glorification, you pedantic twats. And the ableism section is no better. The point isn't, as Falsecow says, that Curse can't be a hero due to being disabled. The point is that he no longer views himself as one because he can no longer run at his trademark sonic speed. For fuck's sake! And that point on the super form is just pushing it. Seriously, this is just bitching about the fact that he's sitting down instead of levitating, which would realistically just tire him out more. Then there's more bitching about traumatized Mobians not being curable because, surprise surprise, trauma sticks with you for life, you can only learn to deal with it. And yes, children can also be traumatized, I know it's horrible, but it happens. Like seriously, this is still meant to be horror, why is the vagueness of what happened to Cream an issue? And can I just say that trauma blackening suggests that the trauma turns one into a monster is nonsense? Like no the fuck it doesn't. Curse himself is the prime counterexample. He's the hero of the story and still has a fuck ton of that trauma blackening. So wow guys, you really just leaked Jasper's personal trauma for the sake of commenting on Tails? Literally, why did you share this? Seriously, this Tails part is so fucking irrelevant. Oh, no, wait, it actually proves that this isn't fucking abuse glorification, as it's shown to be rightly terrifying. What the fuck are you doing? Oh, boo-hoo, nothing but pain and misery. Yeah, it's a fucking melodrama, that's how this shit works. Then that dead naming part is also random. Is Sonic even Curse's dead name? The dead name was never confirmed, and since he's transmask and the canon cis-male Sonic is called, well, Sonic, it only makes sense that his non-dead name, you know, his current one, is Sonic. Why the fuck do you think Sonic is his dead name? Wait, do you think Curse is his real name now? Who the fuck names themselves Curse? And yeah, the rest of this is just more repeated nonsense. We'll skip straight to the final chapter of the doc. Now, about that OSTD shit, again, I should just fucking skip it because of how shit the Twitlonger handled it, but let's see. It starts with a disclaimer that they aren't directly stating that the OSTD is faked, but that they are bringing attention to the inconsistencies in Jasper's behavior. That's legal talk for, we want you to think it's untrue without taking accountability if it isn't. Next, I'm just gonna repeat that the speed of the splits mean nothing, as Jasper's fuck ton of trauma would make this frequent splitting possible. Also, not only are fictive alters just generally a thing, which explain the sheer abundance of them in Jasper's system, but they're also not neatly separated, as they can build a personality of their own, explaining how Revived was formed out of basically nothing. Also, Jasper was a fucking co-owner of the Revived character, yet that was unmentioned for some reason. Again, another lie by omission. But seriously, OSTD and DID are not this fucking simple. Please don't spread such misinfo about either of those. Oh, and as far as I know, the fictive alter can very much know that they're fictive. There's also some weird point about inner communication, which is purely based on Jasper not seeing a therapist, as though that negates all possibility of said inner communication. Also, yes, Revived can learn from Spoiled even if the latter isn't an alter. It's called source memories, and those can vary from the source. Then there's also some stupid point about that original X shit, which is just Revived's lore, so it makes sense. Like, what, does it need to stick to the original source or not? Make up your fucking mind. Then the part about Revived knowing about other X's is also stupid. It's just appealing to probability. Then there's some barely comprehensible critique of how Jasper acted during a panic attack, and then an alter taking over. I don't fucking know, it's just weird. Oh, here's an actually interesting part. People of OSDD only have one ANP. ANP is short for apparently normal part. It basically means the host alter. It still only changes likelihood though, it's nothing binary, but it certainly is interesting. And it's followed up by yet another interesting point. The protector's not helping during a mental breakdown. Now, we'd be able to check that if you didn't censor who took over in that moment, you twat. So we don't know if that's actually the case here. Then, holy shit, 3 good points in a row, the subsystem part. It's definitely something worth looking into, but every instance of OSDD is very different. You cannot judge one case by the metrics of another one. Okay, this next one's a doozy again. Basically, Jasper wants the exit community to be safe for DID or OSDD systems, which apparently puts minors who have it in danger by making their disorders known. Yeah, you're definitely not missing the point that Jasper is trying to change the community so that people with those disorders can come out and speak about it without being in fucking danger. That's literally what Jasper is trying to fight here. Then they eventually updated the chapter and spoke about shit like there only being one host now, woo. And they overanalyzed the phrase not on the market to the point of twisting it. I will definitely say though that not using the same phrase for the other child alter in the system is kinda weird. Then the focus shifts over to some new Sonic alter with its timing. Again, this point is stupid, that's just how the shit can sometimes work. But please do note that gatekept doesn't necessarily mean revived to gatekeeper now. It's just a term that's also used in other contexts. Honestly, overall, there are some valid and interesting points in this chapter, but it's blurred out by all this actual genuine misinformation. Christ. But at least we have the dog over now, I guess. As usual, we'll skip the statements, although they do show who worked on this fucking dog. Callum, a former owner of the Encyclopedia, yeah, the one Kenny runs now, Kenny, Tia, Noise, who is Falsecow's fiance, and Falsecow himself. This dog was a disgusting train wreck, just desperately trying to double down on already debunked accusations. Genuinely, all this proves is that someone has a vendetta against Jasper. Are there things to criticize Jasper for? Yes, but not like this. Also, for having Jasper and Uptaunt in the title, this focused way too much on Jasper. I'll show you something you can actually knock Uptaunt for when you're not framing him as a fucking pedophile. Let's get into the next chapter.
Remember before how Rightburst sent his hive mind after someone? Yeah, Gabriel got in contact with that guy. They started off with the Sonic.exe build that had a doc saying Revie is innocent. After Cyrtez pointed it out, Rightburst and Uptaunt sent their fans after him who told him to kill himself. Real mature. Cyrtez then reveals the tweets of how he himself didn't say Revie is innocent, as well as some failed burn with the FNAF song. Only later did Rightburst admit that Cyrtez wasn't a Revie supporter. He didn't apologize, didn't tell people to stop harassing him. That's it. Oh, and Uptaunt stayed dead silent about it. But when Cyrtez asked Rightburst to tell people to stop, he said that he doesn't think Uptaunt really cares that much. That sure paints him a good image, doesn't it? But it gets better. As Gabriel mentioned in his last video, Uptaunt sexually harassed people. After EXE Burner's call-out, he went inactive, then left completely a week or two after that. Before doing so, he made an audio to explain why and brought up how his friends got cancelled and at blows. Just a hunch, but he probably got scared of the skeletons in his own closet. Either way, this whole thing is hilarious and a tangent. Okay, let's get back to the point. Speaking of curse owners getting harassed, let's talk about Madman Halloween.
GPT and teased at a dog calling out Madman and how terrible she is, but nothing came out of that. Or did it? We'll see eventually. What's weird though is Madman responding saying there's no proof when there's a screen cap of her admitting to shit right there. Either way, it would change nothing about how the community mistreated her. Let's go over 4 cases in particular. 1. After the EXE burner callout, Avery gave ownership of Sonic.exe Anniversary Edition to Madman. Unfortunately, GameReel didn't find out about that in time, so we didn't really catch any actual proof of abuse, but the QRTs, along with the other situations, speaks for itself. 2. Rain is the director of EX Eternal and at one point in time had to share that spot with Madman. Apparently she forced herself into that position, and then composer Churtney Gurney joined the team, didn't like another member, so Reina gave him permission to kick the guy out. After getting called out, Reina framed Madman for it, including faking a screenshot of giving Churtney permission. She apologized not too long after, but was really vague about it. Apparently this is also a part of her sending porn to minors, but we got nothing about that here. Madman later made an unnecessarily long response, which can be summed up with making her suicidal, as well as not wanting to work with Reina anymore, but still wishing her the best. Three. To start, Madman shared a now scrapped idea of adding a fat fetish version of Faker to EX Eternal. She got harassed to hell and back for it. This led her to becoming suicidal along with openly admitting to planning on overdosing. Then, KG Peppa steps in and says some stupid shit. He deleted most of it, but we at least have one screen cap. Overall, he just reacts with no empathy whatsoever, which actually lets people realize how much of a piece of shit he can be. Soon enough, KG drops a 100% real, totally genuine apology. Eventually, Madman gets better again, with KG apparently helping out. As expected, people immediately act like they're cool with him again. Because who cares that he's a fucking psychopath, willing to even start shit like this to begin with? Oh, and this isn't just a one-time thing either. KG also used Divide's death as an excuse to shit on Revie. What the actual fuck is wrong with you? 4. Before we start this one, we'll need some context. Back in October, BandBuds got cancelled for racism, when all that happened was just that he used the N-word, soft A no less. Even then, it was handled privately months ago. Regardless, he took full accountability and still got cancelled, taking Lullaby version 2 with him in the process. Eventually, Madman clowned on someone for calling BandBuds racist. After a certain Com Gaming QRT, she got harassed yet another time. Seriously, the abuse was insane. Like, there was this meme that implied Madman was anti-BLM. It got to the point that not even an explanation of any kind would work. But instead, she got accused of racism and transphobia left and right. Admittedly, she did have a point. It did look like people wanted her dead. But if there's one good thing from this, it's the rare moment of KG Bubba's actually acting like a sane human being. There's more about Madman to mention, but let's talk about that later. For now, let's talk about the guy who was indirectly responsible for that last situation I mentioned.
Okay, so before I say anything on Com, I think it's important to address my apology. Yes, it still stands. I made a hasty assumption based on KG and Com confirming, in quotes, the dogs last time. However, I have since further investigated and found out some deeper shit. I'm not saying that he isn't homeless though, as that's pretty hard to prove, but I am saying that the way he handles the situation deserves criticism. Okay, so this may be a minor point, but I still think it's worth discussing. What exactly is homelessness? When you hear the word, you might think of someone living on the streets, for example. Hell, the Merriam-Webster definition of homeless is having no home or permanent place of residence. But Com isn't that. He did state that he lives in hotels, and that doesn't necessarily make him saying that he's homeless a lie, but it can make people think that he's in a worse situation than he truly is, which might in turn make them donate more. Like, for fuck's sake, he got like $3,000 through just Avery's old Ko-Fi for him. And who knows about all the other platforms through which people donate to him. Now, of course, I'm not trying to say that Com could not be in a bad financial situation, but this can definitely be seen as him exaggerating his circumstances. Also, there's a few questionable terms he uses at times, you know, like house or rent, even though neither apply to him. And his excuse honestly still leaves a lot to be desired, but that's neither here nor there. Now, if I were to say what the best thing to come out of my mistake in the last video was, it would be that more people questioned Com, leading to him finally giving us the timeline of events that led to him being homeless. Through it, he also finally explained some questions we had. For example, how he had internet, why he got evicted in the first place, why his uncle is in jail, etc, etc. So, as the guy who made the claim against him, I think it's only fair to show how consistent this timeline is with how he acted throughout the year. So let's start with late January. First of all, his house catches on fire, then he and his family stays in hotels during the repairs, but the mom didn't pay everything correctly, so they were evicted. Now, he did talk about being evicted on January 29th and 31st, but a house fire was never mentioned, and neither was his mom not paying anything properly. But okay, whatever, he was evicted, we know that part. Let's talk about what happens afterwards. In the first months, plural, he is in a hotel with public Wi-Fi. He eventually finds out that his mother was selling her body, whatever that means, and he was therefore done with her. That was never mentioned before. Then his uncle gets out of jail, which we know happened on March 13th or earlier. Then, after that falling out with his mom, which was presumably in March, he eventually started living in a hotel with his uncle. That was at least during April 16th, but most realistically also before and after. He then eventually got a Moxie hotspot, which explains his constant internet usage. That was never mentioned before. He also worked a job at KFC with his uncle and said uncle's girlfriend, I think. He never mentioned a job or work of any kind, so yeah. Then, and this is really weird, the uncle and the GF argue, the GF runs against the wall, she slams into the wall after being warned, and then, weeks later, used that against the uncle. And then he went to prison. Okay, so according to Com's tweets, the uncle went to prison around June 22nd, so yeah, realistic time frame I guess. But the reason behind the uncle being in prison was generally never mentioned, and I'm gonna be honest, that story sounds like bullshit. If the girlfriend had actually run against the wall so fucking quickly that she was still injured enough weeks later so that the uncle could go to prison for it, then she must have gone fast enough to make Sonic the Hedgehog blush. Also, you're trying to tell me that none of the people that were there ever testified in the favor of your uncle? Even though they straight up warned her to not run into that fucking wall? Seriously, Com? Then, okay, he starts living alone, and the cops just let him, for some reason. And he thinks that he got doxxed through a Steak and Shake Wi-Fi. Okay, no, this is not how any of this works. And I'll get to why in a second, okay? Just really quick about everything that happened after the dox. The mod died, and now he has to deal with everything. Since there's nothing to prove or disprove here, let's just get to the dox already. I'm gonna have to preface this by saying that I found the dox. The exact address and everything surrounding it. No, I will not share it. Don't even ask. However, I will roughly describe it. It was an address set in a rich looking neighborhood without either a hotel or a Steak and Shake close by. Keep this in mind, okay? The doxed address cannot in any way fit to the story he's telling. Okay. When he was eventually called out, he had a massive thread talking about why he doesn't fake his situation. And also I just want to say, no, he never said he wasn't homeless. Don't spread misinformation like that. However, he does get quite weird when talking about the dogs. After my video, he claimed to have never seen it, yet for some reason still heavily panicked when he first found out about it. Why would a homeless person be worried about being doxxed? But whatever. It can just be a general panic, you know, it is something frightening. Then he says that doxing is also IP, but it was a specific address that got doxed, and you can't get that through IP. Like, it gets even weirder when he says that it's through public Wi-Fi. As a quick reminder, the IP address gives you a rough geolocation at most. You can only get an address through the internet if the person you're doxing gives it away themselves. Plus, the IP address for public fucking Wi-Fi can't connect to a personal address in any fucking way. So tell me, Com, how the fuck does all this make sense together? Oh, and are we ever gonna talk about his €200 keyboard? Straight up, he once posted a video of himself vibing to some song playing on his laptop, while also having a separate keyboard connected to the laptop, And someone confirmed for me that it was 200 fucking euros, also roughly around $200. Jesus fucking Christ. There's perfectly fine, cheap keyboards that also have RGB lighting. Why the fuck does he have this expensive one? Oh, and don't even say he had it before, because then why not sell it for money? His laptop already has a fucking keyboard. Still, I do want to say that this is not conclusive and that people still have a right to defend him in this. Yes, even Rightburst, although Com definitely fucking hates him. That's not even a joke, I can prove that later. Okay, this wasn't originally part of the script, but I'm gonna bring it up here because people would likely mention it if I don't. It turns out that after Avery got cancelled thanks to the Exaburner situation, they kinda left without paying Com all of his donated money. But that situation has been resolved, so hey, that's great. So, all in all, is Com faking homelessness? I don't know. It's definitely possible considering all these different question marks here, and yes, individually they would be unimportant, but together it's kind of a death by 1,000 paper cut scenario. But to be completely honest, Com is the type of guy who shares private info easily, for example, his uncle being trans. This is not a need to know basis, but an I overshare very easily basis. So why the fuck is basic shit like the fire, his hotspot, or his job never mentioned? This makes him look as though he made basic plot points up in January or before that, and now tries to cover up the plot holes he accidentally created. However, this is just speculation. Do not come to hasty conclusions because of this, and do not fucking harass him because of this. Okay. Now, the next chapter is about a person that Com tried and failed to defend despite how fucked up they are. Let's talk about Jackie.
Okay, so I'm probably gonna get a bit loud in some parts, so strap in and turn down your volume some. So, Gameriel already mentioned before that Jackie made a leaked build that shows your IP address. There's even this little chat that proves she did it. Apparently it happened right before that, but the dates are missing, so you're just gonna have to take my word for it. That's not the focus though, let's talk about something back in August. Remember the Encore icons that were just doodled over? Yeah, Jackie admitted herself to doing that. Made them so raw my ass. After Gameriel found out, he informed a large Linnea who called her out on it soon after. She made a definitely real apology, downplayed Divide's role in making the icons, and then pulled attention from herself, which is disingenuous as fuck. Not too long after, she made a thread on Twitter mentioning them being placeholders, calls the Divide art misinfo, but also dug around and saying Divide didn't make them at all, which all debatably makes it worse. Oh, and she also linked a thread Com made. Let's dissect that. Out of nowhere, you say Scorch made all free plate art just to disprove the claim. You also QRT'd something that attempts to prove Divide is part in Triple Trouble. You also say there's nothing else he worked on, but it's hard to believe you when you lied about it before this. When Revie gets brought up, you say that not everything your goddess says is 100% true. If anything, she's your guardian angel since she forced Gameriel to apologize to you. The fact that both you and Jackie would downplay a dead man's involvement in something just to clear your own names is the most foul shit I've seen in this community. It's bad enough that his work got pissed on, but this is just horrid. But yeah, of course Com would disrespect the dead, he disrespected the living too. But as usual, we'll get to that later though. But for now, let's go over how Jackie made a thread not addressing the drama. I say that with heavy air quotes, you'll see why. Thankfully though, Gameriel got screenshots with the name Jackie.exe. First up is acknowledging the existence of some videos addressing the incidents in this community. This would apply to Gameriel, but she brings up misgendering her and showing her Twitter and Discord accounts, neither of which Gameriel has done himself. She then says she wants to dissociate with the drama. It's like she knows she fucked up and doesn't want to face it directly. To combat this, she attempts to get rid of the name Jackie.exe, which I shall follow, by now calling her Jackass instead. Oh, and she then discloses that she still works on the mods she did before the thread happened. So yeah, only 2 tweets don't address any kind of drama. That was a big fat lie. In short, Jackass is a huge scumbag. Now that that's over with, let's just go over some miscellaneous stuff.
Hey, remember Marstar Bro, the former composer and director for Versus Sonic.exe? You know, the arrogant little shit that harasses fans. Well, instead of apologizing for that, he just ran off of Twitter. But, and this is the funny part, he was still fucking there, as when some troll tagged him and Egg on Twitter, he immediately blocked Egg. I don't know what to say, it's just funny. Alright, Kenny, bald that he is, once had a random breakdown on Twitter, asking if he matters. That led to a lot of cocksucking from Anorak, Indeed, who called him a fucking father figure, Uptaunt, Avery, Jasper, and probably other big people I missed. Someone who didn't know him even said that he must matter because many people like him, which is pretty funny. But seriously, do not blindly follow this manchild who will destroy livelihoods over petty personal grudges. He didn't only try to do this to Jasper. Honestly though, this isn't all that relevant, I just added this bit for fun. However, eventually he did leave the platform, was still a dickhead to someone we'll get back to later, and then deleted his account. Just a month later, the bald bitch came back as he is insanely addicted to Twitter. Okay, I think it's time that we go back to his doc for a second, as it was made during this absence, and the third part is all about that. It's really just cheap pulling at the heartstrings. He does say that he hopes people can forgive him, but that's real fucking vague. Honestly, it's just frustrating how annoyingly vague everyone likes to be in this community. He says that he is actually afraid to return due to his mutuals all turning out to be horrible, and it's definitely not because he fears people like me who call him out on his bullshit. They do not deserve my words after all I did for them, like actively trying to ruin Jasper's life? Fuck you, Kenny, just fuck you. But luckily I can show you something positive regarding Kenny. Now, very recently, Wells, a composer you might know from the convo he had with Uptaunt, talked directly with Kenny. On Kenny's server, Wells tricked him into accepting his friend request and going into DMs. Here's some interesting stuff to note from those DMs. Kenny, for some reason, genuinely hates Revie, which is fucking random considering how ambivalent he acted to JesterFrog. He then, months later, still complains about the Toastify stream. Get over it, you're an adult man. And apparently Revie going into VC with Toastify proves that she only cares about publicity and not the truth. Yeah, it definitely can't be because she actually wants to talk to him directly and clear shit up, or, you know, let him ask questions, something you refuse to let people do. But she's just such a rotten person. Yeah, shut the fuck up, Kenny. Let's just make it a hashtag at this point. Shut the fuck up, Kenny. Then there's just the typical boring bullshit of someone refusing to separate the art from the artist. Afterwards, when Wells wanted to get a link to Toastify's stream, Kenny said it provides really negative feelings for him. Probably because he doesn't want to be reminded of how fucking childish he was. Wells then talks about the guy who got Revie into that stream, you know who it was in a second, and Kenny is upset with both them and Revie. Why am I not surprised, Kenny? Oh, and also, him saying I'm firm on my stance about her and it won't change, that just shows he fell into the sunk cost fallacy. Don't fall to a sunk cost fallacy when it comes to, you know, life-ruining accusations. Just don't. It makes you look like a moron. Then, when Uptaunt is mentioned, Kenny says they're all bad, and mentions multiple people, even Jasper, who he himself tried to ruin. Genuinely go fuck yourself, Kenny. You don't even know how much stress you caused me with just that one fucking chapter. Eventually, Wells revealed that he is the one who got Revie into the VC, so Kenny fucking blocks him. This is just peak boldness for Kenny. Also, again, just a small thing that annoys me. His usage of tone indicators is like borderline offensive to me. The overusage of /gen makes my fucking blood boil, and I hate how he makes a genuinely useful tool for online communication look like a cheap gimmick. Thank you, Kenny.
Remember MarioBot, who GameReel mentioned a while back to show how hypocritical this community is? Yeah, he's back now. He just showed up after getting cancelled. There was no major backlash or anything. Hell, even Rightburst openly supported him after he came back. It's like no one cares how much of a piece of shit he is. In fact, none of you cunts give a flying fuck about who you cancel, do you? This next one's not that big, so let's just get it over with. First things first, Kubikorg was exposed, but EXE Burner focuses on her being almost 18. No, she was 17, her partner was 16, don't do this. The two also ERP'd and she made some comments that were apparently without consent, but her partner did not make it clear that they didn't consent. You can't blame Kubi for not knowing. What you can blame Kubi for, though, is pestering her partner to make CP. Yes, she did that. Oh, and apparently there's more manipulation, but that can't be confirmed. So while most of the thread isn't that bad, the CP part is actually a flag more red than the USSR flag.
Oh, and GPT Anon came back to call out Adam McCumbus again, as well as pointing out how he close sources his shit and is a major dickhead. While neither of these are worth canceling him over, he does use the Revie disaster as an excuse to do so. Close sourcing your shit in the Friday Night Funkin' community, which is all about being as open source as it can be, is just all around uncool, greedy, and it defeats the purpose. Due to how this next part is as separate from everything as it is, I'll just go over the important part. The voice actor Glitchy Will cheated on his partner with Jasper, of all people. What makes it weirder is that his partner was 15 when he's 18, yet he cheated, so it's just really confusing. That's all I'll say on this, just bringing it up if it's ever important again.
Okay, this is a situation I was way too vague about last time, so let me explain it properly. Remember how Mario Bot said, just say you wish you were groomed by Revie? Yeah, that was in response to Robo, a then 14-year-old, releasing a dog calling out the exodevs and saying that Revie isn't a pedo. Not even defending her actions, just saying she isn't a pedo. If you recall the DMs with Comment Avery, those were part of this dog. She collected all these. Part of that dog was a situation where Nebula, a known fucking leaker, leaking some shit, and then her and Avery trying to frame Robo for that. When Robo eventually exposed Nebula for being the leaker, they lied about it being a fake account, but that's bullshit too. Honestly, Robo got dealt a way too shit hand in general. Allow me to digress for a second. Okay, the specific situation is pretty fucking dark, so if you decide that you want to look further into it through my evidence folder, I say you should be warned at least that it's not going to be pretty reading through all that. So, what exactly happened? A few sociopaths decided to dox Robo and threaten her mother's life. The reason? Some bullshit claims of her sending porn to minors when that isn't the case, and other fake or exaggerated claims. This led to a serious mental health spiral where it looked really fucking bad for her, but she's better now, thank God. I can't tell you how fucking stressed I was. But here's a weird thing. Madman decided to claim that it was the Versus Bench Tales devs who doxed her, which is just false, as they themselves have said. And for context as to why she made up that bullshit claim, it's that Bench Tales first called Madman out, and now she is just fucking salty. Actually, now that I think about it, let's talk about Madman's wrongdoings for a bit. Yes, this subchapter was actually a clever segue. Get fucked. I believe that for the start of this chapter at least, we need to talk about everything that happened on November 21st, just for context. Now strap in, because this next bit might be the last time I ever talk about Madman Halloween positively in any way. All that started with her making a thread announcing her departure from Exeternal, a mod she herself started. The team was generally unpleasant, but the worst was still Reyna. For real, she didn't just actively treat Madman like shit, Reyna apparently even tried to cancel her for leaking her own mod. Something she'd have every right to if it's her own work, but we'll get to the leaking in a second. Yet despite how disgusting she acts, and keep in mind, she faked a fucking screen cap to frame Madman, she was always accepted back by the team. Then there's Noitroa, another piece of shit that when Madman came out as trans in the dev server, deleted that message and spouted some borderline transphobic bullshit in DMs. It had interesting lines like, some felt uncomfortable, it's not Madman's fault that people have internalized transphobia, or not about minors, like, bro, trans kids having a trans role model would be fucking great for them, what the fuck do you mean? But for real though, there's nothing about trans people that's bad for kids to see, that's just a transphobic lie. Hey, Gamer back for yet another small correction. Like yesterday I got in contact with Noitroa and he gave me a small statement regarding this whole situation, and showed me a public statement he made. Basically, he didn't intend to come off as transphobic, it was just a moment where his emotions got to him, and he is genuinely sorry for it. Now that doesn't really change my argument, as I didn't consider him to be transphobic either way, but I think that it's only fair to share this. Ironically enough, Madman then even confirms that there were trans minors in the server. Then Reyna defends Noitroa and says that they actually made a good point and aren't transphobic. No Reyna, that's just internalized transphobia. Nothing more, nothing less. After a couple of arguments, Madman snapped and, wanted to leak and kill Eternal. Wait, what? Okay, no, keep this readiness to leak something in mind for later. Now the whole situation with Neutra is just settled and it's kinda awkward, but apparently Madman is still getting actively villainized in the server. She requests her work to be removed from the project and that's about it. Okay, this next part is where the real fun begins. Robo posted some proof of Madman trying to manipulate someone into taking Faker from Revie, then wanting to fake screen caps for it using her knowledge of Rev being suicidal for manipulation, then just generally being two-faced about her and admitting to leaking and destroying 3.0. Keep in mind, these aren't random claims, these are her own fucking words. Oh, and apparently she said the N-word in the call. Honestly, that's a minor thing in my eyes. Now, for some extra evidence, I'll leak my own chat with her. Dick move, I know, but I don't really care. Now, I was told that she wanted to talk to Rev in order to discuss some personal situation. I sent her a burner account Rev made. It apparently went so well that she gave Madman her main at the time. Here's the weird thing. The personal situation was Revie yelling, "I have a bomb" on a call, which Madman even agrees was funny. Then why the fuck bother discussing it? Now, the trust Revie shows in giving Madman her main is pretty big here, making it very possible that she told Madman that she was suicidal. This is not a confirmation though, this is just, something that makes it reasonable to assume that that could be the case. Then, Madman's reaction to the callout was very weird. First of all, there's that old identity thing. She says on a Twitter account, still called Madman Halloween, with nothing making the new name clear. Then there's also that never knowing that Revie was suicidal thing. And yeah, this truly can't be easily proven, but it's definitely a reasonable assumption. Still, I will give this one to Madman. But I will not give her the bench tail shit. Don't pull other beefs into this to hide. Then there's also her saying that people should stop saying that she leaked 3.0. But Robo only said bah! You said that you leaked it, Madman. Nobody else. Next up, that N-word bullshit. I don't really care too much about this because one word does not equal racism. But shit you do high is still part of your subconscious. Then in the next few— wait, why the fuck did you even ask Revie for Faker? I got you in contact just for the personal shit. Damn, you really just went behind my back like that, huh? But as if God gives me a sign that I should calm down, Madman just drops the objectively funniest line I have ever read in the creation of this video. Racism also runs throughout my family. Great stuff, great stuff. Then later on, the random claim that Robo is the bench tails dev is only supported by DMs of them speaking about each other. The fuck? Robo then responds with yet another call out. There's no shit like an old message of Madman saying that she doesn't drink or take drugs, and proof that she actively deleted messages. Robo also responds to Madman's statements that it's fucked she recorded a private call with the statement that she, Madman, apparently said in the VC that she jacked off to Robo's Sona, so she recorded everything from then on to make sure to have evidence. Christ! Anywho, Madman then also slanders Robo by saying that she's on Reina's side. Where the fuck does this come from? And immediately goes into suicide mode again, then gives away everything she owns on the internet. She also later made a Twitter space where she wrote a fucking suicide note. Robo then came in to cheer her up, but later found out that it was just bait. Now, that pissed her off immensely, as she herself attempted to kill herself just days before this. It was not a fun time for her. Like I said, that docs and everything around it fucked her up. Now, as a quick side note, I just want to say that Madman actually suicide baiting does not negate what KG or others did before. He couldn't know for sure and still knowingly made that assumption, which is still disgusting. That's the same with Reina and everyone else who mistreated this cunt. Two wrongs don't make a right. If you treat a shit person like shit, you're also a shit person. Nobody cares about your shitty justification. Then, just hours later, Madman came back complaining about how Robo recorded a private call, called her a bench tails dev, and then said that she, Madman, didn't know Revie was suicidal. Now about that private call recording, your GF's got nothing to worry about. I've seen Russian dashcam videos with higher bit rates. But then she also does some schizoran about being happy to see Eternal burn and making up random bullshit to explain why Robo called her out. Then she deactivated again. Then she came back yet again, now claiming that Robo framed her. With her own fucking words? But this is all she did, right? This has to be it. Wait, it's not? What do you mean it's not? Yeah, remember the stock GPT anon teased? You know, the one that Madman then blindly denied and hid from her audience? that shit got cancelled because she apparently bribed someone who worked on it. But yeah, I got my hands on some of the evidence. Let me share that shit. Of course, number 1, she helped make Sling Mingo, a notorious leaker, into who he is now, according to her own words. There's also then proof that she was in contact with Revie to get her hands on Faker. And you know, if you abuse my trust like that, at least get my fucking name right after I correct you on it. Then there's also a lot more shit regarding her being a leaker, you know, like admitting to being in the leaking scene, her leaking a lot of shit, presumably external, her leaking even more shit, potentially the original 3.0, her leaking Triple Trouble Encore with some of the original parts from 3.0. So yeah, this is what I got, who knows if there's more. Oh wait, there is more? Okay, this has been added very late to my script. This is literally just days after it happened, and I added it on the same day of this recording. So let's get into it. Instead of that promise doc to show how she was slandered by Robo, we got a mega thread of her defending herself. So let's just do this. Racism and pedo claims are cleared up first. I never thought she was either, but that's besides the point. Now here, once again, we get some funny quotes. There's apparently no proof of her jacking off to Robosona, which is true, although we'll get to something quite interesting in a second. And then she also apologizes for the N-word, good on her. Afterwards, she provides proof of her not beating it to Robosona. What the fuck, this is just screen caps of her saying, nah, this ain't it, chief. Why the fuck should I trust the words of a known manipulator? But then, eventually, FQ, if you pronounce their name like that, a friend of Robo's, confirmed it to be BS in DMs of Madman and supposedly cleared it up. That turned out to be a lie in order to get Madman to fuck off. Okay, back to the Mega Friend. She clarifies that she didn't leak 3.0, but Crybit supposedly did. Wow, this adult is seriously trying to throw hands with a fucking 14-year-old now, huh? This leads to yet another thread because nobody in this community knows how to be concise. She then shows that Crybit leaked shit, which, okay, yeah, cool, but that doesn't disprove you leaking shit, and Robo's still quote-unquote working with him. Nah mate, they're just friends, not fucking co-workers. What the hell are you saying?
Something you wouldn't understand since you don't have any friends.
She then calls Robo's reason for excusing Crybit saying the N-word poor, but an edgy teenager and a grown adult aren't comparable. Wait, are you trying to say that you're just as childish as a teenager? But then she still confirms that she leaked shit, so what's the fucking point here? Okay, whatever. She talks further about the racism shit and drops yet another funny line. No, racism doesn't run through my veins. Good on ya. But then she does explain her weird racism runs in my family comment. It was supposedly about her growing up with toxic people that just kinda instilled that in her. Like you're the only one, that isn't a fucking excuse! If everyone with racist parents turned out to also be a racist, there would only be racists on Earth right now. And then there's just more bitching about how Robo should not have recorded a private call. You should not have been such a fucking creep. Back to the mega thread. Now on Revie, she just says that it's not true, and then for some reason shows that it was Robo who she tried to manipulate. You realize this makes her look better, right? Next there's some claim that Robo deleted important context, no proof is given, while Robo literally proved that MMH did the same. Then Madman's trying to get some fucking brownie points by showing that she's willing to get in contact with Revie. What, so you can try to manipulate her too? Why would you need to talk to her? All you need to actually do is show the screen caps of your convo with her. Although considering your past, I still wouldn't trust that shit as you could easily delete some messages. Luckily, someone was insistent enough to not let Madman get anywhere near Revie. Madman then tries to write her fucking manipulation as very poor persuasion off. No, okay, no, fuck off. You try and fail to manipulate people more than you fucking breathe. Don't think any of us are dumb enough to fall for that shit. Then she acts like depressed people are incapable of suicide baiting and never addresses the supposed suicide baiting motive, which, may I remind you, was her trying to get on people's good sides after Robo's call out. Then, speaking of, if all this was true, why did you make that fucking suicide note instead of continuing to dig your fucking grave like this? Like, why did you jump from defending yourself to suicidal to defending yourself again? You didn't even choose how you defend yourself. It's still just your explanations with barely any evidence behind it. I'm sorry, but that just reeks of someone trying to change plans mid-battle and then realizing it's not working. But at least she proves that she takes drugs. That's something, I guess. Little does she know that proving she's a fucking liar doesn't help her case. Okay, this next one's actually interesting. Madman shows how Robo sends porn off her character to someone else. But then literally cuts out the important context, like, this shit is literally what she's accusing Robo of. What the fuck, Madman? What are you trying to do here? And then she takes her full leave from Twitter and comes back hours later. Why, you might ask? Simple. Robo called her out again, and she talks about clearing up and disproving more shit. You failed to do so before, this is fucking embarrassing, Madman. She then even reacts to the call out by saying, funny you didn't acknowledge my points. I just did, and they don't hold up in the slightest. I do not blame her on getting out more evidence instead of that. So, then, let's talk about that newest call out. Robo is actually being concise and just brings up the claims into evidence. Good on her. Madman uploaded porn of Robo's Sona to Rule 34, making her fapping to it a lot more likely. She also shows how Madman hid context behind why Robo sent that shit to her friend. She also, supposedly, kept touching her dick in a call with Neutrua. And finally, Robo ends that call out by showing how Madman broke down over how she kept leaking shit. Keep in mind, that claim was always based on her own words. And her even talking about some plan or vision with External, which sounds just a little weird in context, but maybe that's just me. So, speaking of her vision for External, what's up with it now? Okay, even after everything that Madman said, Neutrua says it's not cancelled, Raina said it wasn't cancelled but then deleted that tweet. For some reason people left the mod and even said that Mistful Crimson Morning, a notorious train wreck, had better development, which is hilarious. So yeah, if it goes out on a whimper, I'm not surprised. Now, speaking of Sonic.exe mod revive, wait, we're not done? Okay, one last update. Neutrua added Madman to a blacklist on the External server. There's a fuck ton of valid claims, but it's still hilarious. Now apparently, that piece of shit Madman wanted to manipulate Neutrua when he's mentally down to take over the mod again. By the way, you might have noticed this in Robo's final callout. I didn't mention it there because it was always supposed to be mentioned here. Thanks, Robo. You really made this complicated. Also, apparently, this is just hearsay, but it could realistically be true. Madman supposedly leaked even more mods that we do not know of. Okay, now, speaking of Sonic.exe mod revivals, it's time we talk about Rerun.
Someone exposed the public server for Sonic.exe Rerun since the mods tolerated NSFW but also allowed minors in. Like, the server was 14 plus and there was a no NSFW rule, yet there was straight up pornography whilst mods were in the chat. Someone named PackGoat.exe posted the majority of it and never got banned for it. Hell, Nayu herself posted a video of someone twerking. Just wanted to mention this. People think this all made Shut Up JoJo Black Rerun devs, but from what we know, that isn't the case. Gamereel talked to Nayu about this whole thing. She didn't see the thread, but she still hates the server herself. The video she sent was of a random person twerking, but that doesn't change the fact that she sent it. Sometime after, she seemingly deleted the server. Gamereel did not get permission to share this, but you'll see in a bit why neither of us care. Remember someone named Indeed? Yeah, he got thrown out of Rerun because he was given nothing to do. Apparently he joined because Rightburst offered him, who then came by to sort it out. Okay. One other person said it was a misunderstanding, another compared it to the original EXE team and how it had over 60 members. He was brought back in and deleted the tweet since people were obviously mad with the Rerun team. But then it happened again. A lot of shit was started for no reason, which made people feel unwelcome. Some even got thrown out just because the server was too big. Also, it's apparently run by screwing around. Clearly, no EXE mod is run well. Mudo claims this was a misunderstanding, but this is just a pattern by now. Also, one more thing. The former voice actor for Stranger, the literal face of the mod, popped a fucking blood vessel and the directors did not give a shit. I don't know all of the directors, but I know for sure Mudo, Nayu, and Rightburst are. Now back to how I said neither I nor Gamereel care about Nayu's permission. Some random dumbass on DeviantArt called Gamereel a pedo for no reason whatsoever. When that got shared and rightfully ridiculed on Twitter, Nayu responded with her personal DMs with Gamereel about how he's older than her, saying that he's kinda weird. Now, is Gamereel weird? Of course he is. But this context feels like you're trying to paint him as a pedophile, which is disgusting in its own right. Even if that wasn't the intention, you know it could have happened, why put it out there? Either way, leaking DMs for no reason is just stupid. Even if Game Real's reason was pettiness, at least he actually had a reason. Luckily, Nayu got called out on it, but then changed the subject to Rightburst for some reason. Oh, and speaking of which...
Okay, Rightburst, let's do this. To be clear, right from the get-go, I will not harp on him too much. Like I said before, kid's been through way too fucking much. Remember, people harassed him because he thought he led the Revie slander, something I already proved wasn't true. This is just me neutrally criticizing his actions. Now, I already do not condone harassment towards anyone I criticize, but I will be explicitly clear with him. Do not fucking harass Rightburst. If you do, you're no better than Falsecow, Kubikork, or Kenny. But I will allow myself some lighthearted jabs. Those are kind of necessary, aren't they? Now, let's get into it. Okay, let's start by me proving my hypotheses from the last video. Nayu confirmed him joining Rerun back in June. Avery confirmed he was kicked twice. And this last one is not an old claim, but him saying directing is hard is pretty funny considering he was literally kicked twice and lost the director position and ownership of the mod to Com. I told you there would be some jabs. Okay, this next one's pretty interesting. When Revie left the internet, he confirmed that she is not a pedo. Now, when him calling her one in the Parallax talk is brought up, he didn't react, as far as I know. And to be clear, he was still openly spiteful towards her when she was called out. So take that how you will. Next, GPT Anon strikes again? Apparently Rightburst lied about not being in contact with JesterFrog. I don't know, this evidence seems pretty flimsy. I just wanted to bring this up for completionist's sake, but I do not buy this one, like at all. Okay, here we go. Remember that Satanos and Sally Alt voice reel I mentioned back in the Falsecow chapter? Rightburst also reacted, but he only threatened that actions will be taken instead of actually striking me. Yippee! He then says that it ain't right, even as a joke. People on the internet will leave anything they see. Yeah, Revie can confirm that.
You fool. Thanks for finally saying my name. You never did in regards to my original criticism, did you?
Yeah, funny. Gag. Over. But seriously, you guys were ready to mention Lenny, but not me, so me forcing a reaction somehow actually worked. Is it because you guys can talk shit about him because he's a leaker, or rather shares leaks, and my image is squeaky clean? But besides, for real now, who would want to steal a character made out of spite? Okay, this one's getting a bit mean, isn't it? I'm sorry, it's really not my intention. Okay, so after this whole situation, I joined a server to see what went on in there, and it was dead fucking silent, so me and some others just talked. As a joke, I added him and asked about Satanos, then got banned while I was sleeping once he was online. Now here's the weird thing, when someone pointed out that it was me, Rightburst thanked them, and then said something about raids for some reason. And the same day he made a tweet about being angry for no reason, which is probably a coincidence, but still, very funny. Now speaking of servers, in a completely different one, my video was shared and people talked about Rightburst as a reaction to it. Apparently he is a douche and people like Com and SimplyEJ just avoid him as a subject. Way to be fucking honest with someone, guys. Seriously, Rightburst is willing to publicly defend you and you just go behind his back like that. Don't pull this petty shit. Just say you don't like him and be done with it. Jesus, this is childish. Alright, let's get back to the dementia shit mentioned in the JesterFrog chapter. When Exaburner called Rightburst out, Muto came in to quote-unquote explain the dementia shit. Apparently, Rightburst just mistook forgetfulness and dementia. That's not a mistake that should just happen like that. Also, forgetfulness ain't that big a deal. I myself am insanely forgetful, yet don't over-dramatize it. Oh, and by the way, once Rightburst's apology came out, Muto talked about everyone dogpiling on him without hearing him out. And that's kinda difficult when he prefers to be vague and not speak about his own side of things. Now, once someone calls Muto's defending of the dementia shit out by showing that people don't get regular dementia before their 30s, Muto responds with a website on childhood dementia, but misses the part where it says that the brain gradually degrades when it has that condition, meaning a 16-year-old with it should not be able to, for example, direct multiple mods. Once that is pointed out, Muto just says it can range from months to decades, which, yes, it can, but it starts early. Oh, and then he just has a random ass rant about the other person using a throwaway. What the fuck? And when he was asked for a better argument because the current one is kinda shit, Muto shows symptoms of ARBD, then pretending it has something to do with teenage dementia, even though it's a completely different disorder. Now, in case you're unaware, ARBD does not mean a Rightburst dick rider, even though that would fit to Muto. It's alcohol-related brain damage, sometimes also called wet brain syndrome. It's also only caused by alcohol, and teenagers shouldn't have it in general. And if a teen has ARBD and dementia, the prior caused the latter, not the other way around. Now, there's 4 options left based on what Muto is saying. 1. RB has insanely early normal dementia. 2. RB has childhood dementia and will kick the bucket in a couple of years. 3. RB has an insanely rare, almost safe version of childhood dementia. Or 4. God forbid, RB doesn't have dementia. Now, when I made a pretty fucking angry community post about it, Muto was very butthurt over it, and it showed. No, wait, dude, I called you a cocksucker, not a dick rider. I'm not that unoriginal in my shit. Okay, now, back to Rightburst. Let's wrap this chapter up with the final few points. Okay, for some context on this one. Uni was depressed to the point of being suicidal. Then someone quote retweeted that with saying, slow your roll. And Rightburst reacted with, this goofy ass MF brah. Needless to say, he got massive backlash and all hell broke loose on Twitter that day. Let's try to summarize this. First, he tried to play it off by saying, do y'all do any sports, but that was immediately called out. People then actively dropped him and left the mods he worked on. Suddenly, he talked about his grandma in DR and people called bullshit on that, but that's not confirmed nor deconfirmed. Anorak then made it about himself for some reason. Exaburner came back out of nowhere. We found some old tweets between Muto and Uni foreshadowing this shit. Com made a whole thread about how angry he is and tells people to be better. When it's called out that we also talked about how he's not a swell dude, it turned out that other people also knew, but never spoke up due to cowardice, I guess? Then people say that the grandma thing is clearly not genuine, and one psychopath says that they can't wait until his grandma is deceased? What the fuck? Kenny gets pissy that someone mentions Revie in relation to this. Then, eventually, Rightburst drops an apology saying he apparently didn't read either Uni's tweet or the quote retweet he responded to before commenting. It's properly and respectfully criticized, which I'm happy over. Then Muto, cocksucker that he is, mocks the idea of Rightburst lying to save his ass. Like, look, I don't want to be negative to him anymore, but Rightburst is well known for not being 100% honest all the time. Then Uni shares that she and Rightburst talked and cleared things up, which, hey, that's great. Good on you, Rightburst. I don't know if Rightburst actually did fail to read the tweet properly. It's, however, still genuinely good that this was cleared up. However, this means this was either malice or a massive fucking mistake on Rightburst's side. I'll be so nice to assume the latter, but it's still a fuck up he needs to learn from. Then, however, one day, out of nowhere, Rightburst dropped a scheduled tweet announcing his own suicide. He talked about how the community completely ruined his life and how he's actually going through with it this time as people don't care anyway. Despite what he said, he's still alive. Before he spoke up, people found out that it was apparently caused by loneliness due to a friend moving away. Now I'm gonna say that this was probably not attention grabby shit, but instead just a final problem that broke him, considering he has actually been heavily harassed and abused. This eventually led to an admittedly comical trilogy of tweets. So then Nayu ranted about this and made a valid point on how he has been mistreated, but I'll still get to you, you piece of shit. And Muto also ranted about this, making an equally valid point about Rightburst being mistreated. But then that shithead blamed me and Lenny, which is a fucking terrible accusation that genuinely offends me.
And I've never said this unironically, but I think this will be the first time I actually say it unironically and mean it. Kill yourself.
And despite how shit I am at conveying that in my tone of voice, I'm serious in this. I know what it's like to be harassed as a minor. I know what abuse feels like. Do not ever imply I would bring someone close to suicide. Fuck you, Muto. Genuinely fuck you. Then, when someone rightfully questions that, he doubles down, saying shit like, you have no fucking clue the amount of shit that goes on behind the scenes with them and Rightburst. When they are in his DMs every fucking week trying to get something out of him, then that's fucked up. He even purposefully misinterprets my call-out post towards him as a promise to harass Rightburst off the internet. Yes, this has to be on purpose, as I don't have a precedent of harassment and only promise to make sure he can't ever return, which would, as previously, be through exposed videos. And yes, I have to admit, I'm definitely very horrible to him in the ends. He gets such terrible harassment from me, like me saying that I'm happy he's still alive. Like, check the dates. This was before Muto's filthy thread, so don't even bother making shit up like I'm doing this to save face. This was me being genuine. So, Muto, you either knowingly lied or made shit up about something you knew nothing about. Pick your fucking poison. Eventually, and I'm only saying this for the sake of fairness, he did try to reach out to me, but I declined as the tweets were still online, making me doubt his intentions. Back to topic though. I wish Rightburst all the best. Please get better soon. This next one will be the final subject about him, I promise. Now, back when everyone thought Twitter was dying, Rightburst made a joke about Revie being actually innocent. Muto and Nayu then joined in on the joke, but considering how shortly it was after the almost suicide he committed, he was rightfully called out on it. He then apologized, which is kind of weird, what do you mean by this time? But one certain cunt didn't feel like it. After people called it out, Nayu got insanely defensive about it. She goes on and on explaining why it's fine, ignoring the issue that everyone now knows that Revie was slandered and that Rightburst played a part in it, making this joke pretty fucking disgusting. Suddenly, she talks about people hating on Rightburst for no reason? What? But seriously, she turns this shit joke into a Rightburst defense show for some weird ass reason. And I have a good guess as to why, but we'll talk about that in a second. I swear to God, I remember her admitting that she had the idea for the joke, but I lost that tweet sadly enough. Now ain't all that wacky. Anywho, after this joke and the backlash, Rightburst went on a hiatus as far as I know. Good for him, he needed that break. Now let's talk about the people supporting him, using one special example as a case study. Okay, as it's becoming a fucking pattern at this point, let's start with some context. Lenny found out that this following person leaked private info between us. I then tried to confront them as I considered them a friend until then. Turns out they pretended to be a Revie defender but were actually on Rightburst's side. However, to make sure they don't get harassed, I will be keeping them anonymous. Now let's get to it. They quickly say that they blocked Lenny because he got really fucking annoying, which would make sense on its own, but you'll see why that's likely bullshit later. They said that they had lots of evidence proving Nominal innocent, 3.9 fucking gigabytes, the hell, and then deleted it all. First of all, deleting that shit makes no sense in any context. Why would anyone delete unreleased evidence? Second, 3.9 gigabytes. My 1.1 thousand screenshots, 2 videos and 10 plus docs for this video alone are barely 260 megabytes. Who the fuck are you trying to fool? Unless you seriously mean you somehow have 24,000 screenshots. When I asked why they deleted all their messages with Lenny, they said that they thought he'd use it against them? What the fuck did you say for him to be able to use it against you? They also then defend Rightburst's memory issues, but fuck up in that, because forgetting something in 40 minutes is actually a great fucking track record. Seriously, is this brain a fucking hard drive? I struggle with remembering the topic of the conversation after just seconds. Also, him organizing the mod servers doesn't sound like what the ex-Rerun members said. Then we discussed some DWR doc. They saw a small tidbit, yet were apparently fully convinced it's bulletproof. And it was going to be turned into a video, which is apparently going to be 3 hours long? Now, I do not know how long this video you're watching right now will be in total, but I am certain that by now, Lenny, Toastify and I definitely have 3 hours long beat. I then made the point that they could have easily given that info to at least Toastify in private, something I still stand behind as he's still working on that fucking video, at the time of recording at least. But they just say, just wait for the counterclaims. Like bitch, I made the counterclaims, Lenny made the counterclaims, Toastify made the counterstreams, Falsecow and Co made the original claims. Also, they just had so much fucking time for this already. Half a fucking year has passed since Lenny's original video. And what we have now, a secret response hidden from the public for next to no proper reason. Now, they say that they wanted to get a Rightburst to make a public statement ASAP, which, as you might know, never happened. Then I make like some throwaway comments towards Rightburst's hate boner for JoJo, which that supporter doubles down on, calling JoJo a dick, something I personally, from my own experience with JoJo, consider out of character for them. They even say something about JoJo first being friends with Rightburst and then dropping them once they got popular. That whole part of the convo made me concerned, keep that in mind for later. But despite all that, I still considered them a friend to some part. Not anymore, but whatever. So I warned them from trusting Rightburst. Keep in mind, I still thought he was the main man behind the Revie situation back then. Now apparently what Rightburst showed them lined up with their own evidence, which they deleted so we can't check. Put deleted in quotes, I still don't think it's real. But since they told me about a campaign they planned against Rightburst, I kept drilling him with questions. They said that they had evidence against him, but that was apparently just someone pretending to be him. I then asked for that evidence. They say again that it's all gone, all 3.9 gigabytes. We then keep talking about the evidence. They say that Nominal said make it public or no one should have it, so they deleted it. First of all, Nominal never said that. That's just a lie. But even then, they said they pissed him off. Which, why would they listen during an argument when not all the evidence has to do with him? Now, once I question the story, they get insanely defensive, like borderline mental breakdown. They get pissed, call me just as annoying as Lenny, and then block me. Now, I don't need to tell you that honest people don't fucking act like this. The story made so little sense that just a couple questions broke it into pieces. Now, let's quickly talk about the JoJo portion because I am in contact with them. I tell JoJo what I've been told, they explain it in detail with screen caps. Turns out they were never close at all to Rightburst, only acquaintances. Eventually, JoJo distanced themselves from the team because they didn't want to get involved in the Revie shit. They sent a screen cap of a convo from literally the last day of 2021, showing they barely talked before and were on good terms. In fact, they apparently barely knew each other at that point. Later on in April, they had another pretty interesting convo. It was generally about how Rightburst should handle the mod. That was apparently the only other time they were serious about stuff with Rightburst. Wait a second. Uptaunt? The exit team knew that Uptaunt was a sexual harasser, talked about it, and still fucking kept him? And Rightburst publicly supported him, despite also knowing? Okay, no, I'm not fully serious about this. Considering how shit that 133 page doc is, Rightburst had every reason to doubt Uptaunt is a piece of shit, but he definitely is. I still think this was a massive fuck up on Rightburst's part, but I'm willing to assume it wasn't intentional. Now, onto the point of this chapter. The convo I had with that person reveals that even Exit Dev fans can be scummy. Of fucking course, not all of them, this is most likely a minority, but it still happens. So, to wrap things up, no, you didn't actually think I forgot that DWR thing. Let's talk about it, because the Revie situation is, in fact, still not fucking over. DWR, short for Down with Revie, is a doc that Rightburst, Falsecow and some others worked on to quote-unquote prove that Revie is guilty. Like that Rightburst supporter from the last chapter said before, it was meant to become a video, one Crybit would edit. This is where this comment, you might have seen somewhere else before, comes in. And I just want to say quickly, as a note, once more, do not harass Crybit or anyone else. I swear to God. Now, when Lenny asked Rightburst for this doc, its existence was confirmed, but Lenny was immediately blocked. Funnily enough, Rightburst later deleted all messages, which isn't even remotely suspicious. Now, realistically, this doc should no longer be in production. Rightburst can't be involved due to his mental state, and many others just can't be involved because of, the Exaburner callout forcing them to go into hiding. So let's talk about why it is likely still going. The reason is the new guy who runs it. Choda Boy, the creator of Lord X and PC Port, as well as the current co-owner of Sonic.exe in general. But now, why would Joe do that? That's simple, he has a personal grudge against Revie. He says that Faker impacted him in such an uncomfortable way, which, let's be real, just means Revie did something, because not even he can separate the art from the artist. Plus, remember, he was part of the original callout. Falsecow even quote retweeted him in it. And yes, that may not have to mean much, but Joe used the word we multiple times, making it clear that he was involved. Also, small callback to my very first video on this drama back in August. Remember how he basically admitted that they rushed the callout so that Revie wouldn't have time to defend herself? I do. Now, of fucking course, that's just speculation. There's no way to easily prove that he's even involved in this, right? Here's an email Joe sent to Toastify about DWR asking him to slow down on his video production. Funny thing to note, he makes it very clear he wants Toastify to take his sweet ass time with this video. He also tells Toastify to not share anything with Revie if he's in contact with her, which is disgustingly dishonest. Are you still trying to not let her defend herself? Now, since the doc is still not out, let's just be honest and say that this was meant to buy time and hopefully make everyone forget about the situation. Fuck you, Joe. Genuinely. Wait, hold on. This is the neutral party that Falsecow mentioned in his doc? Oh, come on. But seriously, Joe is such a massive shithead for this alone. Then there's also the fact that he's the owner of Cult of X, the server Exaburner exposed, meaning that he just allowed JesterFrog back in like that despite likely knowing she's a pedo. But you wanna know what's funny? You wanna know what's fucking funny? He's a dickhead in other ways too! Okay, as a quick warning, this is the part that made me add child exploitation to the trigger warnings. Whether or not it actually counts as such is up to you. Either way, I consider it hella scummy. One random day on Twitter, a teen called Nirivo talked about her own experiences with Revie, calling her an ass. Her experience is about how when she was 9, too young for Discord, Revie made fun of her being so young, so she abused her mod powers and Joe got pissed. Then she says that she worked on PC port at the time. Likely the original, not the remake. Keep in mind, she just said she was fucking 9 at the time. And no, her being on the internet since they were 5 ain't no fucking excuse. No 9-year-old should work on PC port. Now, that could just be a lie for attention, so let's investigate. Weirdly enough, there isn't any public credits list for PC port, which is kind of fucked on its own, but whatever. Let's investigate this ourselves then. By the way, I had a couple people help me investigate this. Thanks guys, I'm not gonna name you so that you don't get harassed, but I couldn't have done it without you. So, first of all, here's proof that she was 13 around July of this year, confirming her age. Next, we're gonna have to check who exactly Nirivo is. Now, the name isn't spread that far, but on the Game Banana page for some FNF Creepypasta collection mod, I found Steak/Nirivo as the main musician with a linked Twitter account called @Nirivo, meaning this is likely the same person and that she's also called Steak. That name is a lot more prevalent, so it's time to get cracking. Now, when looking for it, we found this list of people with an @lolman69204 as Steak. The age stated on that account, 13, matches up, so this is likely Nirivo. There's probably even more Twitter accounts we can find, like this band @NirivoNew, or this not band @Lolleluja321 with the nickname Steak, which seems involved with PC port in some way, but this could be a coincidence. Also, to prove this is the same Steak, on PC port's itch.io page, I found a Steak man speaking of the PC port Discord. When you investigate that account, you see the @Lolleluja321 Twitter account linked. So let's go into that server and keep investigating. On that server, there is someone called Nirivo who is also 13 and uses the same profile pic as @lolman69204, once again showing a connection. Also, note the consistency of Nirivo and Steak always being a musician. What we also find is literally a message from August 2021 confirming Steak was on the team, meaning they worked on it until they were 12 or 13. Meaning they worked on PC port at least 3 to 4 years, and weren't even 14 yet, by the way. Although we really didn't even need to look on the server. Joe literally acknowledged and credited @Lolleluja321, one of Nirivo's accounts, for music, keeping the same consistency. So, finally, this is it, right? There's still another doc in production that Falsecow set into motion and Joe is now continuing. But honestly, unless it explicitly confirms the Kubicork and Dreamy Carrots grooming allegations, don't fucking bother, because those were still lies and slander otherwise. And keeping Falsecow's 133 page doc on Jasper in mind, it'll likely just be a cheap attempt at reiterating on the previous points. So is that really all? Wait, no? Okay, once again, for context. One day, a couple people on both sides, including Rightburst and that supporter I showed you before, decided to make a truce. For it, all sides would cease talking about the Revie situation, essentially resolving it. This was both insanely stupid and insanely gullible, but it seemed to almost work. But since I was unhappy with being barely involved in his creation yet also having to keep my part in it, I got in contact with Rightburst through Nayu, and this subchapter is about what happened. So I got into a group chat with Rightburst and Nayu. I showed before how this was the real Rightburst, and I don't even need to confirm Nayu myself. She's the one who leaked DMs first, so that basically proves this is real. I ask what the truce is about. Rightburst says he basically just wants to move on. He left the DWR project, so he doesn't know what has happened to it. He also confirms that Falsecow played a huge role in it. Then we had like a small tangent about that supporter, we'll skip right through that. After that, Rightburst explains that the truce is just what I thought it would be, so I bring up the damage, quote-unquote, his slander campaign on Revie did. Then he tells me that Revie apparently made him suicidal. Jesus fucking Christ. However, I still stand by my "two wrongs still don't make a right" comment. That's just, a fact. There's another small tangent on how Lullaby, remember that from Madman's chapter, might have gone differently if Revie wasn't cancelled. She was the director after all. Now after that second tangent, I bring up my 3 conditions to accept this truce. 1. A public apology for the slander. 2. The DWR doc. 3. Falsecow taking his final doc down. He responds with the following things. 1. What do you mean slander? 2. DWR isn't his doing. Yeah, it's Falsecow's, that's true. And 3. Falsecow's actions aren't his responsibility. That's fair, I just hoped Rightburst could convince him to. We then talk a little about why I still kept going with the drama even though Revie wanted to move on. I bring up Com's statement and get a pretty sizable response. He tells the whole story about the group chat with Falsecow, Kubikork, Dreamy Carrots and Jasper, something I later confirmed with Jasper himself. His own personal story is also told with Revie abusing him, which, if true, is really fucked of her. And, surprisingly enough, he's actually mature on wanting to drop it for everyone's sake. Which, hey, genuinely good on you, dude. And I'm not being ironic, that is definitely a respectable move. I quickly empathize with him, but ruining her life was still unnecessary despite what she may have done. He seems to genuinely understand that, which makes me happy. I then tell him that he should have spoken out about what she actually did, but apparently he couldn't as the whole team was on his ass when he did, scolding him. He apparently genuinely tried to speak up, but she supposedly used group chats to get everyone up against him. Also, she went to his private friend service and slandered him to his friends. I expressed my doubts, but when we kept discussing everything, Nayu came in to break it apart, but we both wanted to properly talk through it. When I asked about a point of origin for his and Revie's beef, he didn't remember it. Still, I give him the option to publicize this story, and yeah, I guess sorry for doing so without your consent to it, but I think this was ultimately the right thing to do. This all then ends peacefully, and after I sleep a night over it and talk with Jasper, I'm for the truce and hatch a plan to get him out of the drama. Eventually, he agreed to it, he just wanted to wait until the situation's calmed down. He thanks me for coming to him, and I thank him for giving me his side. In the end, we both agreed to that plan. So why did nothing come from it? Out of nowhere, on November 4th, Nayu came in and told me to grow up and move on. Afterwards, she dropped more nuggets of wisdom like it would actually bring their drama back to light. Bro, it still is at light a whole year after it happened. What the fuck do you mean? She also randomly acts like I'm threatening to harass Rightburst and straight up pretends that my offer to get Rightburst out of the drama is blackmail. I say that people will keep harassing him if this doesn't happen. She says that he's perfectly fine until something like me or Egg wanting to talk happens. Yeah, sure, and his suicide attempt is definitely not proof that he's mentally fucked. There's also more random shit about that Rightburst supporter, and Nayu just says I forgot when I remind her that I said they're manipulative. Nayu then asks why I want the apology. I repeat myself and say that it's to get Rightburst out of harm's way. She speaks of how Twitter always harasses people, and yeah, you'd fucking know, you tried to contribute getting me harassed with that DM leak. She then says that she's fine with him revealing the whole story, but denies the apology. I go along with it, but she then randomly talks about the 4-hour-long full story. You mean DWR? She also says that Rightburst would be more in the right than anyone else, which, yeah, sure buddy, definitely. Nayu asks me if I know the full story, she stops me from giving her the proper answer I'm trying to give her, and then I do it anyway because fuck her, how could I possibly know if Rightburst never talked? I then say that the Falsecow threat was either way lies and slander, and Nayu randomly doesn't know what it has to do with Rightburst. Like, he said he was part of it in this very same group chat. Rightburst then sends a few messages explaining his situation, including a couple screenshots that were deleted before I could screenshot this. But Nayu tells him to shut up, and then immediately those got deleted. What the fuck? Suddenly, she comes back and says that Rightburst will explain himself, but no apologies, because he apparently won't need to. Which, slander is slander, you childish twat! But whatever, I made that same offer, so I agreed. At the end, all I wanted was fucking honesty. So yeah, Rightburst was fully willing to apologize and leave it behind, and Nayu, like a dipshit, refuses to let him. To explain why this is stupid, if Rightburst tells the full story but doesn't apologize for the slander, then he will still be criticized for it. Seriously, slander is slander, regardless of context. However, if he apologized and I quote-unquote confirmed that apology, people would finally be satisfied with Rightburst and leave him alone. However, Nayu only cares about Rightburst's image, not his well-being. This is so clearly just about Rightburst not looking like he fucked up to the last few people still supporting him. And I swear to God, this is hopefully just a crack theory of mine. But if this is just about not wanting Rerun to look bad by association, I will fucking strangle Nayu. Why did I have to do what I could to help Rightburst with his mental health when these two are IRL friends? Okay, finally, let's wrap up Revie for good. Is what I wanted to say, but then Rightburst and Nayu pulled a disgusting stunt that I just added to the script. Let's fucking do this. When a Revie defender shared me saying that Rightburst wasn't the mastermind behind the Revie situation and wanted to stop the Rightburst hate, Nayu quote retweeted it. She basically repeats the same shit from the statement he gave to me in the group chat, then goes and looks for the statement. she pulls out a similar but different statement, and you can see it's from a server and not from a group chat as his name has color here. The weird part is how most of it is literally copy-pasted, but there are slight differences. Everything that relates specifically to me was cut out, and instead more waffling about and the random accusation that Rev sent him censored furry porn was thrown in. I first thought that he copy-pasted it from our group chat and tried to make himself look better and Rev look worse by adding lies he thought I'd see right through, but then I saw the date. Our group chat was on October 24th. If for whatever reason you do not believe me, you can just check my recording of scrolling through the group chat to check it. However, this statement was either October 12th or the 10th of December, the former being a lot more likely here. That would mean he took around 50 minutes to copy-paste that statement into our group chat, cut out the bullshit, and then added flavored text to make it look like he wrote it for me specifically. Okay, by the way, people asked for proof on the furry porn shit for good reason, so now you actually delivered. God damn, respect. Wait, that says deleted user, not Revie. Yeah, her old account is definitely deleted, but there are many deleted accounts. Then, ironically enough, a Rightburst supporter mocked the idea of asking for prove it, sir. Nayu actually looks for it. That supporter for some reason says, only if you want, I trust you anyway, which is hilarious and show that they aren't actually confident in this. And then, holy shit, Nayu actually provides the ID of the account and proves it's Revie. Or, nah, neither the ID nor the creation date match Revie's actual account. Now, the person who pointed this out says, hey, I want to believe you, please show a video of you copying the idea of the message. The general openness to anti-Revie proof is met with an I don't care enough to look for it by Nayu. Luckily, she eventually realized how bad this made her look, so she came back to the convo, leading to a massive discussion on whether or not this is actually Revie. I will say though that the ID that Nayu originally posted is just a normal deleted user ID, not a specific one of the account that can still be checked, so who knows. But that's irrelevant. For the sake of argument, let me play devil's advocate and say that this is, in fact, Revie. Still, this callout would have a couple issues. First of all, that shit's censored. This isn't gonna fuck a teen over mentally, especially not Rightburst. If Revie was actually malicious in this, she would have just not censored it. Also, everyone knows she was fucking weird back then. Otherwise we wouldn't have glorious comments like grow hair now. So this could have realistically just been her type of humor. Also, there's just no context given, even though there could have realistically been some through voice chat. And since Rev is gone, Rightburst abuses that in his favor. Besides, Rightburst likes uncensored NSFW shit on his main, even straight up porn, exposing his over 20,000 Twitter followers to this bullshit. And since a good chunk of those are most likely minors, this means he's actively causing more damage than Revie ever could. You fucking hypocrites. Also just, the fact that this was only revealed over a year after it originally happened, and almost a year after the Falsecow thread, is more than just suspicious. Meanwhile, Nayu frames this so that Revie looks like Jeffrey fucking Epstein. And for some reason, Nayu still tries to keep that facade of not caring about all this, in a deleted tweet. Well bitch, this is me forcing you to care. Get fucked, you filthy liar. And you too, Rightburst, go fuck yourself. I was gonna be positive to you because I thought you learned your lesson, yet here we fucking are. But you made one fatal mistake. Nobody betrays my trust and gets away with it. Hoo boy, okay, we're adding one more part to this fucking video. Very recently, like literally hours ago, Rightburst dropped a final statement. It also doubles as his final apology and admittance to what he did. The two main points it covers are the dementia shit and the Revie situation. Overall, I think it's a damn good apology and a very great first step towards improving himself. Of course, there's also the elephant in the room that, he only did that in January 2023, when the situation has been going on since January 2022. Whether it's too little too late is up to you. I'm not going to make that judgment for anyone else. I can however say that I deeply respect him for finally fucking making one. Sure, I told him to make one back in October and he waited way too long, but better late than never, I guess. Also, if you take this as a chance to fucking harass him, then please go fuck yourself. This is literally what we've wanted, or at least what I've wanted for ages. If you're just here for the sake of hating and harassing someone, then kindly get the fuck off the internet. Nobody needs you here. Whether you're willing to forgive Rightburst is up to you. I personally do not, but I am willing to respect him for finally fucking talking. For actually using the chance the Toastify video gave him and coming clean. Congratulations, Rightburst. In the end, you managed to show maturity that not even literal adults in this community possessed. Jesus fucking Christ. Okay, let's actually wrap this shit up now. The Revie situation is just lies after lies with just another slander dog to double down if Jasper is anything to go by. This is even insanely hypocritical, as not only are these cunts horrible people, but nobody ever cared to check JesterFrog's case. Instead, she was just fucking supportive. Also, may I just say, everyone else's misdeeds get forgotten, for example MarioBot, but Revie is eternally exiled. Everyone on the side against Revie keeps lying about the weirdest shit. You know, like the server organization that Rightburst supporter lied about. And since the situation has been handled so fucking horribly, now there's this bitch Madman trying to act like she was framed too. Fucking hell, even the co-owner of Sonic.exe himself is now in on this shit. For fuck's sake. By the way, small fun fact, but Nayo revealed that Kubi started this bullshit over a fucking Minecraft grieving. That, by the way, Kubi apparently even started. But that's a discussion someone else can have. I am so done with the Revie drama. This community is fucked, and Revie isn't even the only time this has happened. It's time we talk about Nominal Dingus and InfiniteJr.
Before we start this chapter, I'm gonna need you to watch Large Lenny's video on Nominal Dingus for some more context, because I'm not gonna upload this chapter further than it already is. Gal XE made a big ass comment on Lenny's video doubling down on everything. I won't be going over that though, since Lenny clapped back with a response that rivals how large he is himself. I'm gonna give you a bit to pause and read the whole thing here. After that, Gal made a response to Lenny's comment, but deleted it after and made another comment. This new one admitting some shit was out of context and apologized for the hassle. However, he also noted that he would support RageMiner making her response right after saying he'll stay out of the drama. Actually, let's talk about RageMiner's response. Yeah, she made a twit longer on September 11th, making it only the second biggest disaster on that date. Thankfully, she only focused on 2 minutes that were actually relevant, so I'll make this as quick as I can. Don't think that it'll actually be quick though. So she starts by admitting that the gaslighting claim was bullshit, saying that she felt uncomfortable that she didn't get to talk with Nominal as much and Rage kept asking for shit. What? Then an exclamation of Nominal asking for emotional support. What's the point of this? There's also some more images explaining shit, including Nominal apologizing and RageMiner saying it's fine. Although there is a part where Nominal is shown to have attached an NSFW image to an FLP. However, given that RageMiner is of age and she didn't show how she felt uncomfortable, you can't blame Nominal for not knowing he made a mistake. Then there's another admittance to always asking for shit, and straight up saying that they were unfair to him. There was only one point you didn't prove. Next is just slandering Large Lenny, starting with focusing on how he shared leaks on 4chan and defended Revie, even though neither have to do with Nominal Dingus himself. And then just discrediting him for no reason. He doesn't constantly fall back on they were joking or this is out of context. It's just that almost everything being out of context showed Nominal had no ill intention. RageMiner claims this isn't an attack on Lenny, even though she discredited him with irrelevant bullshit. Kinda like how right after that, she says he harms mods, when he himself does not leak shit. And then she says he only defends people for clout. Oh fuck this! Next is just a random message to the Friday Night Funkin' community to think for themselves. Yeah, that's why you defame your opposition, you twat. Then she says people only defend Nominal Dingus because they want more of his content. What the fuck? She also says that they deserve to lose their legacy because of their actions, even though she literally agreed with the majority of Large Lenny's points in Nominal's defense. This is just all kinds of moronic. But then there was an update of some sort with RageMiner's tweet being deleted. I don't know about that. What I do know is that Large Lenny was gonna discuss the twit longer in a follow-up video on Nominal Dingus, and we got the script for that, so we know he wasn't going to silence dissent. But for those who don't know by now, he already left the internet before that came to be. Now this section was supposed to end here, but we're not quite done yet, as we also have a reply by Wolfie Gaming, who exposed the aforementioned glitchy will. So you got into a VC with Large Lenny and Nominal Dingus and got manipulated? What? Blaming an old friend for something that was entirely Nominal's fault? What are you on about? Then you refuse to go into detail because it's a touchy subject and it was all a VC, so there's no proof. Right. When asked again, you provide proof of Nominal kindly requesting you to let him explain shit and then talking about Lenny and Revie. Are you serious? So you say Nominal still forced you after claiming not to, yet literally 4 words later you say he was quiet for most of it. So we're just spouting bullshit now. Granted, yes, Lenny can be forceful, but ultimately he's ambivalent to whether people believe him. Then you just prove Nominal reached out on his own. Is that a bad thing now? After someone called you out on your bullshit and showed your evidence proved nothing, your response was the following. He exposed himself in a vent channel, but it was reset, so no screen caps. What the fuck do you mean reset? Was everything deleted? If so, what even was the reason for that? The rest is just a screenshot of you joining another group chat. Nothing special happened. This is just pointless. Basically, both RageMiner and Wolfie bullshitted their way out of this. They both can suck the fattest one. Next in line is Brodoo, Mamie Mayo, whatever you want to call her. Now I'm gonna need y'all to remember the character analysis based on the comment at the beginning of this. Arrogant and vague. So back when Large Lemmy's video first came out, Brodoo made this second weirdest response possible on Twitter. She starts with calling it a recent video. What stops her from mentioning it? Why is she so vague about it? Who knows? She also focuses on just one mistake Lenny made, thinking one irrelevant person is JesterFrog, even though she actually is irrelevant to Nominal Dingus as far as my knowledge goes. Eventually, Brodoo then makes a community post about it, saying that she won't back down from her claims, but admits the pedo and groomer claims are stupid. Basically like the everyone deserves criticism but me approach with Game Reel. And a little reminder, she said Nominal's career would be fine. So why was she so stubborn about it? I'm starting to see a pattern that I don't think I like. Also important to note, as of writing this, Brodoo and Nominal seem to be on good terms again, so good on her. Yes, I'm serious about this. Good on her. But in my personal opinion, those last 4 don't hold a single ash of a candle to Fire Mario fan. We were gonna leave this one to Lenny, but we already know how that went, so I'll do it myself. So before I start, I want to preface this tweet of Fire saying the Nominal Dingus fiasco isn't for clout. Now let's talk about the GC where he admitted otherwise. Large Lenny created a group chat so that Fire and Nominal could talk it out. Fire claims that he's given him 4 years for this shit. I wish to remind you all that 1. Fire bullied Nominal and acknowledged his threat was a joke, and 2. Those 4 years were nearly empty. They didn't talk at all in 2019 or 2021, and there was an 8-month break in 2020. Fire also calls Nominal a piece of shit, as well as Snotty Boy, which is a name he and everyone else used to bully Nominal with years ago. That just paints him as more immature than my baby cousin. Fire says he doesn't want to be involved, but Nominal explains pretty well how that can't work. Someone else named Aubrey explains to Fire that it might stop bothering him if they just talk it out. He just says that he wants that to abuse the Twitter algorithm. For extra clarity, this happened before Elon Musk became CEO of Twitter, so the algorithm still worked, letting Fire abuse it. Fire admits that he just wants to use Nominal's name for his own gain. Again, friendly reminder that it was always Fire who bullied Nominal. This is nothing new. Fire still refuses to talk it out, acts like me in 3rd grade, and leaves the group chat. Jesus Christ, he really is a sociopath, and this isn't even the end of it for Fire. He also overreacted to Nominal being in defense of Revie, claiming that she sexually harassed one of his friends, but it was in a VC, so you already know the answer to that. Fire responded to Large Lenny's video as well, and it's laughable. Admittedly, Lenny could have worded it much better. It's not that they were joking, it's the fact that everyone at the time knew they were jokes. Fire acknowledged Nominal was joking, and Nominal was told frequently that it's fine, so he had no reason to assume that he fucked up. Fuck all of you. So yeah, you can see how disgusting the general response is. You got Galaxy, who quietly admits but eggs others on, RageMiner, who blatantly slanders her target, Brodoo, who is vague as shit, and Fire Mario fan who's just a straight up sociopath. Now, Revie and Nominal Dingus were massive cases with people knowing what happened, making collecting evidence and defending the right people easier to do. But what happens when the case is much smaller while still influencing the wider community?
Now, in this chapter, I was gonna go through every single accusation, but there's one issue with that. This is all over the place. Collecting everyone's accusations would kinda defeat the point of this chapter. I'll explain this later, but let's at least discuss the biggest one. Being a pedo. Because of course. We start with Tia PNG, Kenny's fiance, who you might remember from the Jasper chapter. The first tweet says, "Pedo accusation is true, he came off as having no remorse." Wait, came off? The screenshots then prove that Infinite didn't think it would be a dumb thing to do and apologized when the minor said they weren't fine with it, and that he had plans to watch himself in the future. And his comment of "I deserve what's coming" is twisted into a lack of remorse because of a fucking heart emoji. Next up, the jokes. There's some sexual joke the person goes along with, him saying that the person can do anything suggestive with his OC if they want, which is very obviously not that serious. A harder daddy joke, really scrapping the bottom of the barrel here, huh? And a joke where a character becomes dummy thick. My man, I've heard 12-year-olds say more horrifyingly sexual shit. No teen would realistically be affected by any of these. Now, next up, the note on Kenny not being involved. Straight up lie. He even was the one to put the nail in the coffin, alongside fucking JesterFrog and some of her supporters. This was, by the way, Hell Michigan, that server from Infinite's thread in the JesterFrog chapter. Now that I think about it, how did neither of you have time to check the accusations against JesterFrog, but both had time to actively slander Jasper and Infinite? The fuck? Next, the 3-year age difference is admittedly iffy, but they weren't dating. Plus, 15-year-olds have already seen shit that's worse than fucking harder daddy. So, that's the pedo claim. A couple of jokes taken too literally mixed with a straight up lie. What's next? Now, the accusations are still all over the place, so let's jump into the one collection of everything. Infinite's response doc. Okay guys, last full doc we're covering, we're almost done, let's fucking do this. Here are all the accusations he covers. Grooming and pedophilia, sexualizing and sexual interactions, racism, transphobia and homophobia, and venting and suicidal thoughts. Yes, he was exposed for being depressed. Fuck these people. And I will just say that I will legit speed through this shit, I'm too fucking tired to keep going in all details. This won't be a full discussion of whether or not he's innocent anyway, this is a discussion on the nature of these accusations. But his innocence will prove itself anyway once I get to my actual points. First up, the pedo accusation. There's a second situation here which he shows to be a nothing burger. It's just him talking about girlfriend's tits. There's also him admitting that he vented to that person because he forgot they didn't want that. Then there's also the person from Tia's tweets, which is also a nothing burger. The changes diaper thing, by the way, is literally a non-sexual family RP thing that he didn't initiate and neither stuck with beyond that line. This reads like a hypothetical someone would make up to annoy you. He then also says that they could do lewd shit with his characters if they wanted as a subconscious mistake. He shouldn't have done that, it's a genuine fuck up, but it's nothing worth cancelling him over. And ironically enough, the other person also does sexual jokes. This ends with a fuck you to people calling him a pedo, like the lying bitch Tia PNG. Then the sexualization shit. In short, Infinite talks about how nobody ever told him they were uncomfortable with his shit, meaning he never knew he made others uncomfortable. And when someone did tell him about it, he, at least according to his own words, accepted it. I personally can't say much more on this, it's just he said, she said, who fucking knows. Next up, racism, transphobia and homophobia. The racism is just edgy jokes. He didn't even say the N-word fully once. The transphobia is so random that he doesn't even know why people think that. His theory is that he uses the false pronouns at times. And the homophobia is just nonsense. He himself is pan. Then, the venting. Yeah, okay, this is fully true. I can attest to this myself, I've witnessed a couple of vents. This guy has manic depression and anxiety though. Please just give him a fucking break. Wait, was he literally exposed for being depressed? What the fuck? Still, he does genuinely feel bad about this. And no, he's not fucking faking depression before anyone else says it. Fuck off with that. He finishes the doc by making a point about lack of communication in the community, which is honestly just true, especially with Tia and Kenny. My point with this is that this cancellation is especially disgusting in multiple ways. The accusations are spread all over the place so that they're hard to summarize and debunk. Therefore, people only know for sure that Infinite is bad and can always pull new shit out of a hat to shun him. Also, the utter lack of communication as with both Revie, Nominal and even Jasper is fucking laughable. Great job Tia and Kenny, Really in character for you. What pisses me off most though is the widespread disrespect as it proves the malice in this. So let's talk about it. Now, Infinite, who was fucking framed, is open to neutrality with his slanderers, he just wants an apology. Tia responds by acting like a dismissive bitch and doubles down on her bullshit. She talks about the dog, refuses to apologize although it proves she lied about him. When someone asks about who Infinite is, she portrays him in the worst possible light. She states his assumed, he's only turned 19 on December 9th, 2022, current age, 19, instead of the one he was during the accusations, 18. She's vague as fuck about the sexual and suggestive shit with a 15-year-old and calls venting to a friend using a 14-year-old as his own therapist to deal with his suicidal thoughts. None are lies per se, but all make the situation, which is a few personal fuck-ups, look insanely messed up. Also, remember how I said Kenny was a dickhead to someone while leaving Twitter? That someone was Infinite. So let's finally talk about that final part of Kenny's doc, the part on Infinite Jr. He talks about how Infinite first vented to Tia, then sexualized her character, then vented even though she did not want that anymore. Yeah, Infinite is wrong in this, full agree. However, since he listened when Tia wanted to end the friendship, I gotta ask why the fuck she didn't say she was uncomfortable with the sexualization. Seriously, just talk shit out for once. By the way, yes, this is worth criticizing, but not worth cancelling him over. How often do I need to say that? This man is already depressed, and if he kills himself now, that's blood on your hands, Kenny and Tia. Do you want that? Do you seriously want that? Then, as Tia broke down, Kenny confronted him. For once in his life, Kenny had a healthy discussion with Infinite, and he apologized. Then made up with Tia, who said he shouldn't apologize for venting. So what the fuck is this call out even about? Then, Kenny states that they found out his behavior concerning minors, which we already know is bullshit, months later. He then goes on to talk about how Infinite is blatantly disrespectful, like you're one to talk, Kenny, and says fuck you without being sorry. Oh noes, the bald bitch is balding and malding. Oh no. Kenny then also refuses to accept his apology, which is kind of fair as he fucked up big time. Because, you know, the call out may be disgusting bullshit, but Tia and Kenny are in the right not to want to deal with him. And as a note to Infinite, because I know he's watching this, you may have fucked up big time, but you got way more than you deserved. Now, let's end this by talking about some more miscellaneous cunts. Remember Speeds? That guy from the beginning of the video who caused the mass panic for no reason alongside Saster? Never let Saster make you forget that he's a piece of shit too. Yeah, that cunt immediately had a schizo rant once he saw Infinite speak up again, immediately calling him a fucking suicide-baiting, fetish-loving creep, both of which are lies. He speaks of how Infinite apparently got in drama, hid, then came back before? Okay, he was still fucking slandered, even if that is true, and you're a liar, so why should I trust you? I hate to repeat myself, but go fuck yourself, Speeds. Also, remember Indeed, the fucker whose only claim to fame is getting thrown out of Rerun? He also had his own schizo rant and focused on Infinite being a weirdo, as though that's cancellation worthy. There's also some more random shit about VAs, as though that matters. He calls him immature, which is ironic considering how Indeed himself acts, we'll get to it in a second, and then tells Infinite to go fuck himself. Then he actually reads the tweet he's just raged about and agrees to it, except the part where his friends are also guilty. Wow. But for real, ego is just mentioned offhand and Kenny has no excuse for being ignorant. Still, this is fucking petty and childish regarding Infinite. Now if you think this disrespect ends with the big names, then you're fucking mistaken. Both Nominal and Infinite have had to endure insane harassment. So let's talk about it. Okay, this is a real short chapter just to show the abuse they got because the fans are no better than the creators. Infinite's threat led to a lot. Memes mocking him, straight up insults, people trying to discredit him, it's insane. I'm just going to let you guys look through this real quick.
Nominal Dingus made a tweet showing how easy faking evidence can be to show that Large Lenny wasn't biased. Needless to say, it still got a lot of shit. He also talked about how people handled Revie in a really stupid way, which got even more shit. Actually, this is disgusting. Someone replied with a video of SpongeBob saying, "Kill your 3-year-old daughter." What the fuck? There's like 230 QRTs, but I can't really see them anymore because Twitter is shit. However, someone did say Nominal was dogpiled, so I can only imagine.
Needless to say, this all is genuinely fucking disgusting. All of you should be ashamed of yourselves. But, whatever. It's now time that we end this whole mess. It's time for the final words of this video. Okay, now I know that this chapter is called Final Words, but please don't click off yet, some of this is still really important. I'm not gonna waste your time though, I'll be quick, don't worry. So, if you didn't catch it throughout this video or any other one about the situation, then I'll spell it out for you. Almost everyone here is morally bankrupt. People only care about looking good, not acting good, and the prime examples for that are Falsecow and Kenji. Quote-unquote pedophiles only get shunned when the accusers just so happen to have grudges against them. Meanwhile, nobody speaks up about their own friends, like JesterFrog and Kubicork, even though those were far from hidden and even worse. Like, for fuck's sake, child porn was involved. Ignorance isn't an excuse, by the way. Everyone kept talking about how fucked up JesterFrog is and none of you cared. You just didn't want to properly investigate for whatever reason. And still, nobody actually cares for their friends here, only their own image. Friends are only kept if they are willing to blindly defend you, otherwise you just backstab them. And when a neutral party then does speak up about that shitty behavior, they're immediately blacklisted. Isn't that right, Kenji? Wait, Lenny's video is harmful. It's uncovering lies, you piece of shit! Also, why are you so detailed about why people you dislike, for example Jasper and his significant others, are banned, but people you don't have a grudge against, like Uptaunt and Adam, are just a bit personally described and that's it, no accusations against them. Also, why the fuck am I missing? Because I'm so airtight that you can't allow people to know about me? My video blew up the most, so you got no excuse, you're just a coward. But that begs one question. How did we get here? Okay, I don't think it's a secret that both the EXA community and the FNF community are just terrible. The EXA community is controlled by a couple of man-children and has turned from a fanbase into a personality cult. People don't care about the actual exes or the horror anymore, it's just about the people who create them and building insanely unhealthy parasocial relationships with them. Meanwhile, horrible people are exposed, but always in such a shitty way that only triggers fear, making the fans feel more dependent on the good ones, even though they're just as bad. By the way, remember JC the Hyena, the literal creator of Sonic.exe who was exposed for being a pedo and a groomer and shit? Don't worry, the accusations are actually true this time. Well, he's still around and not even trying to hide his hyena identity. The art style is also still insanely recognizable. This is the main guy everyone agrees is horrible and you guys still fail to get rid of him. Congratulations! Okay, so the EXA community is fucked because horrible people control it. Now what about the FNF community? It's a drama-ridden hellhole, that's what. I don't even have to tell you that, everyone knows it. But the ban mod situation just proves it even further. I'm not gonna go through it again, but he says one word and the mod collapses. Meanwhile, nobody talks about the actual shitheads on the team. You know, like the little old Nyendo/Jagati. Instead, people are so quick to throw accusations like racism or pedophilia around that the words mean nothing now. But don't get me wrong, many popular people are still disgusting. Just look at the new Mafia flick-esque situation with Sticky and Speeds! Fucking Speeds! What the fuck are you doing here? But yeah, a community controlled by absolute pieces of shit and a community filled with drama and backstabbing leads to multiple consecutive dumpster fires, forming an intricate web close to a literal conspiracy. Who would have thought? But please, allow me a message to someone who exposed part of that conspiracy. Dear Exaburner, thank you for your involvement in the JesterFrog situation. And fuck you for your involvement in the Revie situation. That's right, baby, we're revealing who Exaburner is. I asked both Infinite and Jasper who they think they could be. Jasper then told me they exposed themselves for something. This dumbass took a screen cap of a tweet only people in Jasper's Twitter circle can see. And that was even in the screen cap. Then we keep talking in DMs and it's apparently a fella named Bombnon. Remember them? He also further proves it through the art style in Exaburner's old profile pic being similar to Bomb's art style. Yet another indicator is that both Bomb and Exaburner are positively inclined to Cloud Anon, even though they are still connected to the Exodus. Infinite later also confirmed that it was Bomb. But that ain't all, bitches! Bombnon is apparently a victim of Revies. Which one? Dreamy fucking carrots. We've come full circle, haven't we? Here's a funny thing, by the way. Even after that Exaburner call out ruined Jasper's life, Bomb still acted all buddy-buddy with him. Also, small, kinda unnecessary side note, that cunt's just a rude twat for no reason and also treated madmen like shit. Before Robo's call out, might I add, meaning it wasn't even based. Now, this part was first cut out of the video, so you might ask why. Well, it's a small but very interesting group chat Egg and I had with her, so let's talk about it. Now, after our investigation, Egg and I legit randomly got in contact with her, so we decided to have this group chat to clear everything up. This is where I have shit like Dreamy not being manipulated from, by the way. Who would I be without my sources? There's also clarification that the Revie callout was only so bad because it was rushed, and it looks like the years since still didn't give you enough prep time for that. Like damn, they might have even dropped the pedo label if they didn't rush it. Can you imagine that? Now apparently everyone was stressed to get that callout out because someone leaked that it was happening. We knew this before, but I just want to reiterate. What the fuck is wrong with you guys? Why didn't you want to let her defend herself? Then they tried to do that shit again with DWR, but that got supposedly disbanded after the first Exeburner callout. We then shared that email Joel sent to Toastify with her, but she says that it's something different from DWR. Also, she reveals that DWR was actively malicious, which is hilarious to actually have confirmed. Like apparently they wanted to make their slander an actual fucking campaign. Jesus! Anywho, Bomb then agrees that Revie got too much shit for all this and goes on to cry about missing her dear friend. I don't know, maybe just don't ruin the lives of your friends next time. I heard that helps in keeping them around. Now, after I do try to be positive to her, I objectively state that Jodo Boy must have a vendetta for still doing this. She denies it and then gives a non-explanation for his actions, which is basically still a vendetta considering he runs DWR 2.0. And not gonna lie, I do not buy that he just wants to try and fix things. We then talk about how to address her identity as Exeburner, and she's understandably against it. She does tell us what she wanted us to say, you know, what I did in the beginning of this video, and includes the fact that she misses Revie. Aww, how sad. You made your bed, now lie in it, you cunt. We clear all that up, I added to the script, yippee. Egg wants to talk shit up with Joe, but Bomb just says leave him alone. This chat, paired with Joe, the literal server owner being left out of the JesterFrog callout, points to a fucking bias towards Joe. Get fucked Bombnon, get fucked Jimmy Carrots, get fucked Exeburner. I don't know how I need to address you for this, but go fuck yourself. So, basically, everyone here is fucking disgusting and deserves to be no, okay, not really. There are definitely irredeemable people here like Falsecow, Kubicork, Rightburst, Kenny, Fire, Madman, etc, but that's far from everyone. I hold no ill will towards anyone I criticize. I just want the truth to be known. Like for fuck's sake, I was willing to help Rightburst out in this, okay? I want everyone to improve, not to be cancelled out of existence. So, Speeds, Brodo, Com, Nayu, Muto, even Rightburst and whoever else may think that I see them as enemies, I do not. This is just a wake-up call meant to show you how massively you fucked up in this. But it's not too late to change. Most of you are teens anyway, nothing is set for you yet. I just want what's best for all of you, so please don't try to attack or discredit or slander me in return. In a weird way, this is my love letter to self-improvement, a major part of human nature. This whole aggressively insulting people thing is mostly just here to pull attention to the video and therefore also the subject. I am pissed, don't get me wrong, but anyone who talked to me one-on-one knows I'm willing to be pretty chill about this. So please, as a final gesture, allow me to say this. To the FNF and exit communities, you were lied to. The people you trusted have manipulated said trust in order to push their own grudges against essentially innocent people onto you. At the same time, they themselves as well as their friends commit even worse atrocities. Lying to you, ruining people's lives, even disrespecting the dead. And when they're called out, it results in denial, downplaying the accusations, or just massive counter-slander. However, this will not stand forever. Never again will the people be fooled. Through Ponder Sprocket, through Lenny, through Egg, through me, and now even Toastify and Bored Oranges, people have been shown how easy it is to manipulate facts. From now on, they'll be more watchful. And should they ever forget, there will be others to carry our torch. You may have gotten Lenny to give up, but his legacy stands with us, and even once this video is over and I leave this community, there will still be others that keep uncovering the truth. So, to the people I criticized, I am hereby giving you a final chance to set things right. Apologize for your wrongdoings and stop trying to make it look like they never happened. They are in the past now, don't let them define you. If you feel as though something has been misrepresented, or you wish to fully explain something, feel free to make a post about it, and let the world finally see your utmost honest side. But if you lie again, you will just have other people come in and expose you once more. So take the deal and set yourself free. Be honest and we'll be at peace. Your sins don't run after you, they haunt you deep inside your own soul. No matter how fast you are, you cannot outpace them. So quit running and face your demons. We'll be glad to support you through that. You can be better than this if you let go of the past. Even once this purge is over, you may stand with the other greats. We can all move on and make this community a fantastic place to be in again. Maybe you aren't good people right now, but I believe that you all can eventually be. Embrace your sins and give up your egos. Learn from what happened and inspire others to be the best they can be. Alright, I think that's enough serious talk for me. It's time for some personal statements now. The video is basically over, you could just skip to the one you're interested in for timestamps. If you do decide to skip then I understand. I'll meet you on the flip side. See ya!
I know I made a fucking promise on Twitter that I would stop talking about them as long as they stopped talking about me, but I feel like that promise is way out of the window due to recent tweets and I think a few others. So, this one goes out to Kenny Undrix, Tia PNG, Chip, the second quote-unquote victim of me, and any other people dick writing the accusations and thinking that I am actually a fucking horrid monster. I may have said this once or may have said it twice, but fuck you. Fuck every single one of you. You have single-handedly made my life a living fucking hell. Every single one of you. I know I took my breaks from Twitter, and I know I made ways to better myself, even though I looked through my accusations and found out what was right and what was wrong, and what was true and what was false. I get that there's people that do dislike me, I know that. But to blindly turn aside and think that I am a horrid monster for no apparent real reason except for that screenshot and calling me Diaper Boy is so fucking immature and so fucking stupid. Yet it's fucking laughable too. And yet, it somehow kind of worked. I've lost some projects that I was really happy of being in, and I lost other things that I was happy to be a part of, such as voicing Scorch and voicing Mr. Virtual. Now that is all down the drain thanks to you fuckers trying to make false accusations without even trying to talk to me either. Now, it's time for you guys to pay the fucking piper. I'm done with arguing, and I'm done with this shit. And you guys really want to fix it? Fucking make a tweet that you guys want to fucking move on, and instead of bothering me and not telling your fanbase to stop harassing me. Or, better yet, how about you go to my fucking DMs and make a proper apology to me? I apologize to you many times, and I don't want to apologize again. Because I have never gotten a proper apology from any of you. I doubt that's gonna happen, but hey, whatever fucking happens, it happens. I do hope for the best in your future. But I still fucking hate every single one of you for all of my being, for not even wanting to solve any of this shit, and just want to keep grudges. Fuck every single one of you. Goodbye. Oh, P.S. Just to piss you off a little bit more, I'm not leaving the internet. Not just yet. So if you really are gonna be mad about that, then fucking cope, mauled, and seethe. Thank you, GameReal, for allowing me to speak my final thoughts on my situation. I love you, man.
Okay, hi, my name's Kenji. You may know me as Jasper. Okay, a lot has happened over these past few months. Let's get to the final statement that I have to say, because, lol. Okay, I originally wrote down what I had to say, and I'll read it right now. I hope everyone is able to grow and move on from everything. I'm not a perfect person. I fucked up, and I'm currently working on becoming a better version of myself. But I need the breathing room to do so. If you care so much about improvement, please let me breathe. I still don't regret joining this community. I don't hate any of you. Maybe one day there will be a chance to rekindle, but right now, I would be destroying myself if I did such a thing. I'm sorry for everything I did. You all did deserve a better friend than me, and I hope the future treats you all well. Thank you for the happiness I finally felt. So we're just gonna take this final statement and do a little bit of revisions. Because, let's be honest here. I still don't hate any of you. I still don't regret joining this community. But I have no want or intention to rekindle anything with any of you. And you know exactly who I'm talking to when I say this. I have tried very hard in those friendships. And I've tried as hard as I could to rectify any sort of mistakes I had done. Everyone knew me as someone who was willing to change for people. I can't change for myself, and people knew this. You knew this. A lot of you knew that about me. You all knew I hated myself. You all knew I was willing to change, rectify mistakes, if I was just talked to, if I was able to have just known what was happening. A lot has happened during these past months, and it has been some of the worst in my life. I lost a lot of people. I have lost deep connections, and people that have tried to help me have left out of whether it be me making damaging mistakes or damaging decisions. I can't say that I'm a victim. I can't say that in good faith, because I'm not. I'm not a victim. However, that still doesn't excuse the absolute reckless abuse that I was put through. Everyone in these situations that involved me knew who I was, what I was like, what I had done, what my patterns were, everything about me. I had entrusted these people with every single vulnerability that I physically could give them because I thought they were my friends. I thought they were my friends, so I entrusted them with so much of my personal life, my personal situations, and other miscellaneous things, and only recently did I find out that a lot of those personal details of my life, the personal details of my person, have become the butt of jokes, the butt of, don't be this person. I was made an example because of who I had become, and I can't say with good faith that I didn't deserve it, but at the same time, are you fucking kidding me? People in this community knew who I was, what I was like. And yet, the moment something had happened, the moment something finally dropped the nail in the coffin and hammered it down, suddenly, anything that I had to say, anything I was going through, anything that I was going to go through, did not matter. It mattered to no one. In fact, I have seen active participation in making fun of not just me as a person or Curse as a character, but my mental disorders, my active struggles, my active lowest points. The Joker arc was not meant to be completely public. It was in an isolated spot that I had made for myself. And yet, that was made fun of when that was one of the lowest points in my life and I almost killed myself that day. I was pushed and pushed until I finally broke. Twice. 3. No, actually, scratch that, 4 times. 4 times I've had to deal with the reckless and endangering abuse that I had to be put through because people just didn't like me. I'm not a victim. Reminder that I am not a victim. I had made mistakes and I had made horrible decisions. And I fully take accountability for that. I'm not trying to push away the responsibilities because I know for a fact that at the end of the day, this entire thing came about because people just want improvement. And if I was someone that they had to scrub away to see that improvement, then so be it. It's just hurtful and absolutely nauseating how disposable I was to these people. I was replaced so easily, so matter-of-factly. And the moments of my life that were entrusted with these people became the butts of jokes and infighting, and I didn't need to see what I did. I didn't need to see people making fun of how my room looked when it was becoming an active depression nest and I was on the brink of just one day killing myself at any point. Do you know how awful it is to find out after you had been abandoned by nearly 50, 60 plus people that you have borderline personality disorder and abandonment issues that everyone had known about and still did nothing to rectify? Only one person out of everyone that had ever contacted me about leaving had ever made it known that they were leaving at first. After that, it was people just gradually distancing, leaving at some point, and causing me and my friends so much distress. That is awful. I never wish this on anyone, not even the detractors that caused it in the first place. And I can't find it in me to hate any of you. I can't, because I know that there was something there that just wanted improvement, and I was just someone to make an example out of to see that improvement, and I can't fault any of you for it. I just wish you did it better. I wish you would have done something so much more, I guess, not psychopathic. I really do wish things get better. And I want to move on with my life and make the stories that I want to fucking tell. I want to make my stories. I want to make my characters. I want to move on and make some sort of living for myself, because this was the only career I had ever had. I can't even afford medication anymore. I'm still working on it. I'm still working on myself, and I hope that that shines through very soon. But I'm never coming back. I'll be doing stuff on my own, and I'll be working on myself, both in private and maybe in public. Right now I'm so fucking scared for my life I can't post about my art or anything publicly. I shouldn't be living like this. And I hope with everything going on that it finally opens everyone's eyes to the horrors of this community and things to come, and the people that absolutely have it in an iron fist. To those that I have hurt, I'm sorry. I'll try and get better. If not for me, for you. Even if you don't care or hate me or just have no feeling. I want to get better for those around me. And I have been. People can testify that I've been getting better, even without my medication. I got therapy. It's going well. But outside of it, I'm trying to get better, and I hope that shines through one day. And I hope that anyone who had been in a similar situation as me, where you feel like the world is against you and that you have nothing, I never want that for you. And I hope that whatever happens, it only gets better from there. Please don't be like me. I'm begging all of you. Don't be like me. Don't be a version of me. Just be better. Please.
After seeing as much in this community as I have this past year, I am beyond disappointed. Almost everyone involved who's older than me is complete man-children, woman-children, grown-up children, whatever. And those who aren't certainly don't have a good future. I know I'm not perfect, and I may not have a good future myself, but at least I can go out knowing I had some actual decency, and especially didn't resort to breaking laws. The majority of this community has such a warped view on reality, thinking that a 17 and 19-year-old couple on its own is pedophilia, admitting to full-on crimes just for clout,
So many people trying to run from their consequences, even though one of the song names from their precious mod is "You Can't Run," and comparing fetishization to fictional characters to full-on child porn, which actually hurts people. As for my presence, I'm not going anywhere yet. At least, not yet. But until I see enough sane people that haven't tried to cover up anything bad, and enough figures who are smart enough to call out others on it without any double standards, my presence in this community will be indefinite. To any mod teams I am a part of that come across this, you may kick me out if you want, but know that if your reason is just because I was involved in this whole thing, then I request as sincerely and as genuinely as I can that you grow a spine. And to this entire community, for the love of God, please think before you speak, think before you do, and look through both sides of each situation. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go figure out how to report a crime.
Here we are, huh? I'm completely honest when I say that I thought I'd be done after my 11-minute video on the Falsecow thread. And who can blame me? Nobody could have expected this massive rabbit hole to open up right under me. But, hopefully, this will at least be the end of the Revie drama, as I've essentially laid all the cards I have on the table. Any ones that I missed will likely be exposed by Egg. Once this statement is over, my involvement in this drama and the exit community as a whole will end. Hopefully, permanently. Not only will I try to return to whatever the hell my regular content is, but I will also unfriend almost everyone I met on Discord and leave all servers I joined through the situation. I've definitely had lots of great people around me and learned a lot, but I need a lot of time off to deal with these likely traumatic experiences. I may not sound like it, but constantly having my trust get abused really hit me where it hurts. Now, since this is the last I'll talk about the situation, and this is my personal statement, I'll allow myself to ramble on a bit about my thoughts here. Falsecow is a coward that talks a lot of shit but hides behind literal children. Kubikork is a disgusting creep that coerces others into sexual shit and then blames their first legally adult victim. Dreamy Carrots, aka Bombnon, aka Exeburner, is also a coward that does not care about how horrible their friends are, but at least they draw the line at child porn, I guess. Medzilla is also a coward, but at least an honest one. JesterFrog is a disgusting piece of shit that does not deserve the slightest hint of empathy. Avery is a manipulative sociopath that is not even remotely sorry for what he did. Adam McCummins is a filthy cunt. Uptaunt should rot in hell, fuck that guy. Madman is a genuine fucking moron that, for some fucking reason, still tries to manipulate everyone she comes across, failing harder every single time. Com is scamming everyone that supports him by pretending to be homeless when he isn't. Jackie is a nasty little bitch, but ultimately not worth anyone's time. Mar is an arrogant cunt. Mariobot is a piece of shit that should stay gone. The Glitchy Will can go fuck himself. Nebula is a nasty twat. Nayu is an annoying teenager desperately trying to cling to that I don't care persona when it's very clear she cares way too much about her reputation, willing to risk her friend's mental state declining for the sake of her shitty FNF mod. Rightburst is a little shithead that continues to revel in slandering Revie due to his petty personal grudge and now only pretends he wants his drama to be over with because the tides have turned and people are starting to dunk on him. They've turned so hard that not even him victimizing himself and lying about having dementia helps anymore. Muto hates being called out for his bullshit so much that he's willing to say that someone who's criticized him once harasses people to the point of suicide. Anyone who still supports Rightburst and or hates Revie turns out to be a massive cunt, regardless of if they're his friends or just his fans. Jodo Boy is a pissy little shit stain that does not deserve to be the face of the community. Galaxy is annoyingly flip-floppy. Rageminer is a slandering piece of shit. Fire is a sociopath. Tia is a dismissive bitch. And Kenny is a human cancer cell that single-handedly made this community 1,000 times worse. A majority of you is no different from JC the Hyena himself. Selfish, narcissistic, and depraved. For those of you that can't tell, not a single thing I just said is necessarily factual, but they're all my genuine thoughts on these people. The 3 most reasonable people I found in this mess are Jojo, a self-admitted weirdo, Dumby, a woman literally everyone assumes works for the Mexican Mafia, and Mimi Mayo, a fucking teenager. There's also people that people I trust have vouched for, like Neutrora and Reina, but I haven't looked into those enough, so I will not make any hasty conclusions on them. Meanwhile, when we look at the 4 major victims of slander here, what do we see? Jasper, a person that, for a few personal fuck-ups, became a massive target for the entire community's ire, InfiniteJr, a fucking victim to his own mental health, Nominal Dingus, a literal bullying victim, and Revie, who, in comparison to the people that hate her, is a fucking saint. Anywho, should there be any disagreements to my points, I will stay here for a few more days and only then fuck off. However, if I have criticized you almost right, please be so kind and take this as your chance to realize where you went wrong and be better. If you're a fan or a colleague of these people, please make sure they don't pull shit like this again. For example, if you work on or support Rerun, please drop it. Rightburst, Muto, and especially Nayu need to learn their lesson. You don't need to pull your assets or stop being friends with them, but you gotta stop working with and supporting them. Give them a reason to change as people. Truth be told, I don't think this video will end everything, as much as I started production on it in the hope that it would. There's a lot of shit in this community that I couldn't properly discuss. Glitchy supposedly blackmailing Nominal and manipulating people to hate him. That whole talk on Avery. Fire supposedly being racist. Nominal getting copyright striked into oblivion as payback. Avery just being accepted back into the community. The whole situation with Cinder Ash. More shit on Madman that Neutrora apparently knows about. And so much more! Truth is, no matter what I try to do, I cannot end this alone. Please don't believe I'm some almighty exodrama god because I have this one evidence folder with over 1000 screenshots. In the end, there's only 2 things I can say with 100% certainty. Revie may be flawed, but is innocent of the claims against her, and Kenny is no father figure to the community. He's an abusive stepdad if anything. Back to the point though. If there's anything you still have to say on exodrama, this is your chance. Let this be the hashtag #EndOfEXE. Through a unified hashtag, people can look through it and see what you have to say. Please use and spread it, as every voice deserves to be heard. Maybe add in some other ones for flavor like hashtag retaliation or hashtag DWRB. Don't forget to occasionally add some like fuck you Kenny or fuck you Joe. Fill the fucking Twitter trends with it. Shatter the fucking platform. We can't allow these people to keep running. Now that that's all finally over, my channel will go dormant for a bit, but I'll eventually return with non-drama shit. Once I consider the exodrama to be over, I'll unlist all these videos and just keep them available through my drama playlist. Whew, that was fucking draining. Now, I've been GameReal, it's been a wild ride, and I'll see you on the flip side.